Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Alien versus Predator Galaxy podcast, the original Alien and Predator podcast. This is episode 218, and I'm regular host Aaron Percival, aka Corporal Hicks, and I'm joined by my fellow consciousnesses trapped inside synthetic bodies.
Adam Zeller, aka RidgeTop.
Eric Adams, aka Xenomorphine.
Greg, also known as Still Collating.
And are we trapped or are we set free?
Well, I don't know, because if it's eternal servitude to an employee, that sounds like an absolute fucking nightmare.
It's true.
To me.
Can never go home.
And we are here to talk about the first two episodes of Alien Earth after 5 years of public knowledge of this show, and evidently about 7 years of actually being a concept in Noah Hawley's mind. We are here to dive into the specifics of these first two episodes. So, gentlemen, you're allowed a choice of one of two personalities today. So, are we going to be a Disney shill who is paid to be over-enthusiastic about the show? Or are we going to be whiny fanboys who just cannot be pleased and hate everything about it? So,
I'll take Disney
Adam,
shill.
Okay, we'll let the shill start us off then. I don't really know where to go from here. Overall impressions as we normally do, and then we'll just spin off and talk about specifics as we can. Adam, go for it, you shill.
So, yes, I wrote the review for the first episode for our site, Neverland, which I thought was a very strong pilot. I thought it was, a really engaging piece of television, which is a new format for us fans. And I have to be honest, I struggled with the review. I was really in between an 8 or a 9 in terms of my personal score. But I also struggled with, how do I review this? Do I review this as an Alien fan? Or do I review this as just an audience member who's enjoying this show? And I tried to make it clear, even though I gave it a high score in my review, if you are a hardcore Alien fan and you're concerned with canon and continuity, the show is gonna have problems for you. And I don't know, it's weird, because I've ever since the promise of Neil Blomkamp's Alien 5, I was like, fuck it, let's just split it into different continuities, and now we're actually here. And I'm still like really intrigued by the show. I'm really into it, but I don't know, it's like the dog that caught the car, right? It's like, oh, they're actually doing it. Like,
it's so funny you bring that up. Sorry, just a tangent already, because the episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds that came out this week is pretty much the thing of the show, of the episode. The dog who caught the car.
Yeah.
So
just
a side tangent that has amused me.
I mean, I assume it's not literally a dog that catches a car. It's that.
Well, it's actually called the salad who caught its own tail, which is the Vulcan parable of the same thing.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
No, I need to get more into Trek these days. I need to check out the new shows. But yeah, so I know Hawley said in multiple interviews that he is focused on the first two movies, really the first movie. It doesn't fit with those, honestly. And I've heard frustrations from one of my friends, Caleb, he was saying it really wouldn't have taken that much to make it fit with the canon. They just didn't really care to, which, take of that what you will. I don't think most audiences will care about that stuff. But I'm already like all over the place here. So my thoughts, I really enjoyed it. For now, at least, I don't know how I'll feel at the end of the season, but for a strong pilot that was doing its own thing, I thought it was really intriguing. I liked the characters. I liked the production value. I liked the music. It had a lot of alien visual flair and horror vibes that I was like, yeah, I'm down with this. I have reservations, and I'm curious how I'll feel at the end of this. But for a pilot, really solid, really solid. And episode 2, I thought, just continued that. The pilot ended on a cliffhanger, and episode 2 felt like the second half of the pilot, even though that also ends on a cliffhanger. Um,
Well, we
hope
know
they don't-
why that is, don't we?
we do.
Yeah, because most of the second episode was from the original pilot.
Oh, right. That's right. Well, so
Well-
I'm thoughts. I'm liking it. As an Alien fan, yes, I also have my reservations. I'm not quite as concerned as those because I've kind of just accepted like this is doing its own thing. I kind of have to let it. I do like the alien design, the xenomorph. I know a lot of people have had reservations about that too, issues with that. Overall, I think it's really solid, but I still have a bit of caution. As happy and positive as I am about those first 2 episodes, and I am. I thought they were great. I still have my reservations.
Okay, Greg, chill or whiny fanboy?
Ooh. Well, I am on the opposite spectrum there from Adam. I
I don't
am.
know. I didn't pull off shill very well, I don't think.
Yeah. Well, uh, agreed there. I'm also like, we are joking here, but yeah, we are not going into any of the extremes. Like we can be a bit of both in a sense. I'll keep this short because I have a lot of thoughts on a lot of these topics we're going to be opening up. But to summarize, basically, for me, it started out strong in the sense of I was worried about a lot of elements, but I really wanted to like this, and I really wanted for like the Alien fandom to have a successful show, so we can have future seasons, so we can have future story writers and directors making other variations of an Alien show, etc. So I wanted this to be good, and it started off stronger than I was anticipating. I was quite excited at first, and then very soon some cracks started to form there, things that irked me, especially about the dialogue I found very clumsy. And as the episode progressed, it had a lot of interesting ideas, but a lot of things that are also troubling for me. So overall, the first one, I'd give it maybe a 7, maybe, if I'm feeling generous there. But then the second episode, oh damn. It started piling on the elements that I really didn't like, and the things that I did like there were just not strong enough to stop me from noticing the little things that irked me. So for me, the second episode is a lot weaker, and because of those elements that we'll discuss later, I don't know. I'd give it maybe something like a 6 out of 10. Honestly, of the overall first 2 episodes, uh, not counting like what the rest of the season will be, of course, since I don't know, but just looking at those 2 episodes, I enjoy them less than almost any entry in the Alien and Alien vs Predator franchise. Like the only thing that I maybe enjoy less is the Predator from like the adjacent franchises, but everything else I've enjoyed more than these 2 episodes, because even when certain films have problems with law and other elements, I found that the things I liked were strong enough for me that they outweighed the things I don't. Here, I don't feel that way, unfortunately, and I really wanted to like it. So I'm hoping that the next episodes will kind of lift my spirits up a bit, and that I will have a better score for it at the end. But there are a lot of things that I'm beginning to doubt that things will change. That this is how it's set up, and that's how it'll go forth. But in short, that's my opinion for now.
Cool. Eric?
What is it? Whiny fanboy or Disney shill? What's the crosser? Sort of a whiny fanboy or a Disney
whiny
fanboy
shill.
or a whiny shill? Yeah, a hybrid, if you will. See what I did there?
Thematic.
Yes. So I do have to start out by saying the set design and something that doesn't often get mentioned, the wardrobe department, I cannot praise enough. Those feel very much like something which is set, 2 years before the events of Alien. The set designs and the costume on point, Absolutely. I had no issues with the performances. The acting was fine. Where I was let down was with the writing, the characterization, the story. Um, but here's the thing: everybody wants to know, if you watch an alien film, the alien creatures, the unique stuff. I've seen them elsewhere, it's very Resident Evil, but I think they were done sufficiently creepy. I liked them. They felt like living creatures. Unfortunately, the alien and the face huggers, they all felt, when they're props, they felt like props. When it's CGI, they felt like CGI. When there's costume, they felt like costumes. They never convinced me the alien was a living creature like in 79 and 86. Unfortunately, it felt fake, and it never felt, to me, it never felt scary. But yeah, it's a weird kind of eclectic, very Noah Hawley quirky show, which I feel is to its detriment a little bit. But yeah, I don't hate it, but I don't love it. And after 2 episodes, it's meant to be at the stage where you find something to pull you in, and the characters leave me cold. I don't care about them. And some of them, I do have to say, we are, for some of them, at Prometheus levels of disregard for their own common sense and survival instinct. So that kind of puts me off them a bit. Still waiting for some, 3rd episode, 4th episode, something could grab me. But as of now, I'm not really feeling that. I want to tune in for next week thing. So,
okay. So before I go into mine, Hunter in the comments has said, I have plenty of reservations, but the show has a natural blend of being faithful to the source material, yet takes bold departures from the norm of what we've come to expect from Alien. Had you guys seen any Noah Hawley stuff before this?
I've seen some of Legion, and it has a similar vibe, I felt.
Okay, Greg?
I've seen all of Legion, and that's how, even before the Alien show, I just knew him from that, and I found it interesting. Though, of course, as somebody who's not too big of an X-Men fan, I then don't care about so much of the details, so I approach that as a casual fan. But even then, even though I appreciated a lot of the ideas there overall, they were some of the reasons why I was going in trepidatiously into the show, because I was not really a fan of how Legion kind of ended, and some of the themes that were explored there were clumsy, and I just generally, I kind of remember that they had certain cool scenes. It was interesting in some episodes, and I forgot all of the little gripes I actually had with the show until I rewatched Earth. So then kind of made a lot more sense to me. Oh, wait, yeah, the dialogue does match the same thing I saw in Legion. The effects have some wonkiness that are also in that show, and I was like, oh, I should have probably remembered that before coming in with different expectations.
Okay. Adam, had you?
I have seen half of Fargo.
The entire series or one season?
One season. So
Okay.
less familiar with Noah Hawley's work. I have not watched Legion. I mean, I know his TV work is pretty acclaimed. I think he's done one big movie, which was Lucy in the Sky.
Yeah, wasn't
right?
that something with Scarlett Johansson?
Yes. Didn't get super well received, if I can remember, but his TV series have been very acclaimed. Fargo in particular, season 5 recently. But no, I am less familiar with his work. But even just the first half season of Fargo, I did notice a few similarities in, how he goes about things in his TV.
So normally I would have gone and watched a load of somebody else's work before they were doing an Alien thing. When Romulus was coming out, I went and watched Evil Dead, and I went and watched Don't Breathe. I just never got around to it with this, because the series is a lot more of an investment than a film is in terms of time, and it was just a piece of prep I never got around to, unfortunately. So I went into this show with expectations from what we had access to. So cards on the table, Adam and I have had access to 8 drafts, something like that.
Something like that. Multiple drafts of the first 2 episodes, and then a draft of episodes 2 and 3.
And 4.
And this is since late 2020.
So did they, before you go on, did they differ radically, or were they just sort of small changes?
The pilot changed significantly.
Okay.
For the better.
Same basic idea, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I went into this show with expectations from having read a bunch of the scripts, from having seen a bunch of concept art and stuff like that. So when we've been on the streams or when we've been on the boards, I've always been quite, I think, hesitant about the show when we talk about it. I think I've been pretty clear in the past over the years that I'm hesitant about Alien Earth. And despite all the acclaim that came out of Comic-Con, despite all the raving reviews that have come from the press having seen the entire season, I still went into the first 2 episodes with that hesitation. And at the end of the first 2, I think I am very clearly I'm trying to remember how we phrase this now, a whiny shrill. So there was quite a lot of elements in it that I enjoyed, quite a lot of elements in it that I didn't enjoy. And this is difficult for us to also talk about in some ways, because this is 2/8 of a story. You know, this isn't us going and talking about episodic television. This isn't talking about Stargate coming out week by week or Star Trek coming out week by week, because this is an entirely different way of experiencing the Alien story. It's more akin to the comics, and there's a reason we don't do episode by issue by issue reviews of the comics, and that's because you don't have a complete picture. So I kind of think these are a little bit difficult for us to sort of review in a meaningful way without seeing the complete picture. But we do what we can, and it's certainly going to be a bit of a different experience in terms of fandom discussion, which will either be fun or frustrating, we'll see. But for the most part, I think I'm the flip of Greg, where I think the first episode was actually clunkier than the second episode, and I enjoyed the second episode a bit more. I would say the first episode was probably about a 6 out of 10 for me, and the second episode was about 7 out of 10. As an overall package, 6.5, somewhere around there. I'm not completely on board with it yet, but I'm not dismissing it yet. And Eric said, he didn't like any of the characters. I have always said I don't have to like a character to be interested. I just have to find them interesting. And I'm on board with Kirsch. I'm on board with Morrow. My big worry has always been about the kids or the hybrids. Ever since we read those first drafts, I've always said to you, haven't I, Adam, so much is going to be resting on the cast of this show. And I don't think that was quite right, because there's still a lot of writing involved in there.
And the execution. Just a lot would be resting on the execution.
Because I think my big issue with the kids is they're supposed to be, pre-teens, barely pre-teens, but I feel like they're written more like 7-8-year-olds, which makes it feel a lot worse to me.
I don't know, 12-ish-year-old kids can be pretty immature.
Yeah, but I mean, they
feel
more
things. They're saying things like, I miss having baths, and that's more of a 7-8-year-old thing.
Yeah, I think they feel a lot more childlike than the tween. Is that the right word? Tweens?
Yeah,
preteens.
Tweens. Yeah.
Yeah. So
You'd felt more mature in some situations. Yes, the different contexts we find her in already having lived through horror. Though again, in the flashback things in Aliens, when we see before the colony gets overrun, even there you'd being a little kid, she talks like a normal little kid. But here,
And she's a bit more of a different circumstance. I was thinking about this the other day actually, because I was like, yeah, but it's not like Aliens has never had kids in it. But when we have kids in some of the more notable stuff, so Aliens, Adam, we probably always think about Dust to Dust and Thicker Than Blood as well. But those are kids that are being traumatized and are forced to mature faster than necessarily they should be. So I don't think they're ever fully written as kids, even if we get some absolutely cracking dialogue, the iconic "they mostly come at night," that is such a kid grammatical structure. But it doesn't feel like a childish thing to say, if you know what I mean. So yeah, that has always been my worry. I'm not there with it yet, but I'm sat in the middle. I am, unlike Eric, ready for next week. I want to see how the story progresses. I'm interested, but I'm not fully on board with the experience overall yet. Okay, should we just dive into it from the first episode and talk about the opening?
Yeah,
Let's-
very Alien, like ripped right out of Alien. Like if you thought that Romulus opening with the Echo probe was similar to Alien, this is just like we're just redoing it, like in a ship that looks exactly like the Nostromo, at least on the inside, for the most part. And the outside, it has its own unique design, but yeah, that was kind of just impressive how closely they recreated the aesthetic of Alien there with the Maginot. But once we get to the
Even with
crew,
the cross dissolves of the crew waking up and stuff like
Yeah.
that was shot like Scott.
yeah, but once we get to the crew and their discussions with each other, it's clear this is a different kind of crew than we saw with the Nostromo. And there's some things already for me that don't make much sense. Right off the bat, they're hinting at this Tang who's like been creeping at this girl for some reason. So they're setting things up that I think will be explored later. There's a lot of just quick random flashes of horrific things that happen on the ship that are just left hanging. Another thing that one of the strangest things about the show, coming from my like Alien fan side of things, is this ship has been on a 60-year journey.
65.
65, and that is the longest on-screen journey, unless you're counting like generation ships in comics. That is the longest on-ship journey in the Alien universe we have ever seen. And they're like, oh, 4 months till we get home. Like they're treating it like it's Tuesday. And to me, I'm like,
because for them it is. They probably have only been awake a short amount of time.
right. But even still, like space travel in the Alien universe typically isn't that long, even from the older days. The ship is all branded Weyland-Yutani. They know about the current state of corporations and stuff. Like, how are they? Like, I don't know. It just, to me, like right off the bat, some things with my fanboy brain did not make sense here.
I think that the opening scene is another one of those. This is really good, but also this is really bad kind of moments, because the show is so tonally not Alien. So while a lot of like the visual aspects of it, the visual continuity, the look of the Maginot and the Prodigy stuff isn't Alien as such, but it's set in that sort of 70s aesthetic that still retains it and gives it that Alien feel. Even down to the Art Deco of the Lordship's apartment in the second episode. It still feels 70s and it still feels Alien in that way. So the rest of it is so tonally off that I thought it was a good idea. Well, not off, tonally different, that I thought it was a good idea that they changed the pilot episode, and because that wasn't in any of the scripts we've got. It never started like that in any of the ones we've seen. So they changed it and went, okay, we're going to start you on Alien, and then we're going to ease you into it, which I thought was a great idea. And before I go on there, a comment from Steve Patterson in the chat. In one of the opening shots of the ship, does it look like it's leaving LV-426?
The people have thought that as well, and after crunching the numbers, because we have the distances, etc., it is, which is a nice thing that for once the distances are accurate, but that is Saturn. That is the
Yeah,
actual
so
distance from
Well,
Saturn. So
even that, it's like 4 months from Saturn in the alien universe. Like they're going back into cryo from Saturn. Like
yes,
ships should be a little faster than that by this period of time. Even if they're that, like they have FTL travel, so from Saturn to Earth, you're going to get there a little quicker than So there's just some things that, if you're looking at it with like logic brain here, that don't make sense in the series.
I did like the emergency helmet reference straight out of Alien at the start. You know, the
See,
thing
that
with the
made-
sort of gas mask thing at the front. I thought, oh, that's
I
it's
groaned
a
a little
meta
at
creep.
that.
It was, yeah.
same.
I was like, all you people. So I obviously, for listeners who might not remember, I adore Romulus. And so when I see this happening, you know, Romulus takes a lot of shit from the references. And to be fair, I'm not always a fan of references myself. But when I saw this show opening like that, I was like, everybody who gives Romulus shit can have it for that. I thought that was unnecessary, but the other bits like the cross.
But yeah, it's just.
I liked the bits like the cross dissolve, where it was trying to be a bit more Alien-esque, a bit more Ridley Scott-esque, and it's not until they start talking where I'm like, because I found the exposition very clunky, and then it raises up the questions of, but you've been away for so long, how do you know the state of things back home? Obviously, we can presume that there's some communication going on there, but then you have things like the time frame from Aliens. Was it 8? It takes how long to get a message to Hadley's Hope? I can't even remember. 16 weeks.
No,
2 weeks.
2
It
weeks.
was
2 weeks.
2 weeks
Okay.
one way, 2 weeks other way. For me personally, that concerning how long something takes, etc. So as somebody who's approaching this extremely like from an Aliens fanboy, and in the sense of somebody who cares about the expanded lore, etc., those details were of a less concerning nature to me. I try to approach all of these entries in good faith, in the sense of like, what is the simplest and most kind of logical answer that is maybe not exposed yet in a new film or show. So for something like this, since it's a 65-year journey, so it was in 2055. So okay, in 2055, I can imagine that the ships are super slow at that time, so it has some limitations, and it's going around all corners possible, trying to find whatever. So they're probably just having a lot of time there exploring. I'm not too iffed about that, and if that ship has sailed from 2055, Aliens is in 2179. So yeah, speeds and communication technology can change a lot by then. So that was
They paid for the
concern.
premium upgrade.
Yeah, maybe even that. But to me, for instance, I'm very close with Aaron's opinion there about people who are giving shit to Romulus about, oh, so many callbacks. Oh, the film is basically just the best of hits. And then we have Romulus. And then we have Earth, where this literally starts. It almost seems banal, in the sense of, oh, look, this is literally the same thing. I was kind of torn between two worlds, because from one part, yeah, I like the set design, I like the look of it, but at the same time, this is too much trying to invoke the look of everything. It seems like it's trying to be like, oh, okay, we're gonna do Alien, and then I don't have to do it anymore. Okay, if you want Alien, you can look at the ship, but when I want to do something else creatively, then we're Prodigy. It's like I felt a weird kind of tonal clash there, and I wasn't sure, but something felt to me personally strange on the ship of the Maginot. But then looking at things a bit more, I realized that the sets, to me, they appear too clean. They appear too shiny, and there's not enough texture and grease and dirt, etc. on those things. It looks like it's a prop
I don't
made.
know. I
that-
felt
Well, it's meant
that
to be like the maiden voyage or something, isn't it?
yeah, and I felt that it.
But still, 65 years of existence and working.
I know, but in space, like, but I don't know. To
What, so
me,
it doesn't get grimy in space?
maybe not quite as much if they're not dealing with that sort of material. It's supposed to be a science vessel, and they didn't get
Yeah,
from the same line of Prometheus science vessels, I guess.
I'm agree with that, but in the sense of like, if you're trying to recreate Alien one for one, basically with that shot, it kind of misses the quote unquote the soul of it for me, where Alien was imitating a bit of the Star
Future.
Wars elements, the lived in future, the grease, the grime, sweat, and okay, I won't
But
start
I don't.
a new conversation there,
I don't
but
know.
the lighting was also
I just don't feel like every ship or every like facility needs to be that grimy. Like that's something that gave the colony on Romulus, the Jackson Star, a bit of its character. It's like this is extra bad, than from what we're used to. And to me, like if it's a science vessel, yeah, you kind of got to keep stuff clean a little bit. But it didn't feel overly clean to me. It didn't feel like the Covenant, like the Prometheus, where those ships are just like incredibly clean. But I thought it was a very nice emulation of the Nostromo. Like to me, just as a fan, there's a lot of things in this series that so far that are like, wow, that's cool to see, and I like this vibe. And that was an aspect of it for me, just being on that ship that felt so much like the Nostromo, taking me back there. And yeah, I mean, you have to wonder, is the purpose of this ship being so close to the Nostromo just to remind us that we are watching an alien show? Because we wouldn't think so otherwise with everything else. Um, but yeah, I felt that the Maginot is an interesting ship, and I hope we see more of what exactly went down on it.
I think we will. I think it's very clear. I mean, a lot of people are theorizing that one of the later episodes is going to be a big flashback thing. I think it's like in space, the one called In Space. What's that, like episode 7, episode 6, or something like that?
Mhm.
the reviews state it's a certain episode, while the titles kind of suggest something else.
Okay.
So
So we know
yeah.
with absolute certainty from the episodes, from the season reviews that one. Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
that's good.
Yes.
And I think
So-
she's a very cool looking ship from the exterior as well. Like the exterior is a very different aesthetic. It's weird because they call it a C
C-class.
class in the series, but if you go to the website, it says D class. So,
But remember, some of also the press material still called, as me and you were talking, they still called Hermit CJ.
CJ, yeah, he's
Yeah.
called CJ all over the place and never referred to as CJ. He's Joe, and his either last name or call sign is Hermit. But anyway, I'll end on the Maginot bit because we really don't see too much before we get to Neverland Research Island and Wendy and all that. But yes, I am a sucker for a cool alien universe spaceship flying through space. And I do particularly like it when they fly by Saturn, whether it's a Predator ship or an alien ship. But so from a visual aesthetic perspective, very cool. I'm with it.
Yeah.
In the opening title scene as well, and the little musical cue that plays with that, I believe they use a bit of the song Strange Brew by Cream, if I'm not mistaken. Just like a little snippet that's kind of subtly woven in there in the opening musical sequence.
So Casper in the chat says the Maginot is absolutely beautiful. I love the interior so much, the claustrophobic, eerie corridors. I do agree. It was really great to see that aesthetic again. It was a discussion we had in some of the trailers, Romulus trailer stuff, where I was always very clear on making a point where I didn't see that kind of thing as callbacks. To me, that was visual continuity, visual world building. And in this, it's exactly the same. We are seeing that aesthetic expanded out to include other purposes, far more than, I love it in Romulus. I fucking love it in Romulus, but Romulus is a bit, tighter. It is a bit more smaller ships, smaller sets on the space station. And in here, we are taking the Nostromo and we're giving it a bigger cryo bay. I wish they'd have shot that opening scene where we actually got to appreciate the larger cryo bay than the focus on the one set of pods. But like seeing the science chamber, it was bigger. Seeing the med bay in the second in the second episode, with the auto dock bits and pieces all dangling down, we were seeing different aspects of this aesthetic, and I like that. I really enjoyed that. So yeah, seeing it so closely to Alien was cool to me.
Regarding the aesthetics, well, yeah, since there's a kind of comparison between callbacks and stuff, I was kind of comparing it to Romulus in that sense. For my personal kind of taste there, I like having the consistency of world building aesthetic details, but used in a different kind of architecture. For instance, that's what I really liked with Romulus, where we see the details from Alien and Aliens, but in a completely different shape and not a recreation. For the Maginot, even though those details were there and they looked really awesome, like an expansion of what a bigger ship of the Nostromo style would look like. It was so kind of close to the Nostromo. I was worried, does this feel like kind of pandering in the sense, so we're starting with Alien, this is Alien, we're gonna do that before we move on to something else. So that's what kind of I was in between. Do I love this or does it feel strange to me? But maybe also one of the elements that kind of maybe threw me off at the beginning there were the kind of opening, the intro, the opening credits, or whatever. The intro for me started in a quite interesting way with a pan over the alien head texture, etc. Reminded me a lot of Dark Descent, or
I
from film
love that.
versions. Yeah, from film versions like Alien Resurrection, that opening. But then it had those kind of flash forwards, which I'm still a bit iffy on them a bit, but it kind of that intro stops at the alien head, just laying there like that, open mouth, like the alien popcorn bucket. And I was like, it should have just kept with a closer zoom on the textures, etc. Which is the same thing for the second episode. It starts from another angle. It starts well, that intro, but then stops with the alien mouth just open, laying like that, and it looks dry and like a popcorn bucket to me. So I don't know, how am I a bit insane there with my thoughts about the intro? What did you all think? How do they work?
I mean, to me, it was just more like I don't know, like kind of an artsy aesthetic thing with quick flashes. And we see at the start of the second episode, the flashes are different. So we're getting little glimpses of action, but we're also getting a very static look at the alien. And I think it is the same in Dark Descent, where it's just like the alien is just static and the camera's moving around it and it's cool or whatever. Like, I don't know. Like, to me, I didn't have much of an issue with that in particular. Just to bring it back
before you go on, just I love the concept of the opening. I think it's brilliant, but I'm also one of those people that thinks the mouth of this new alien sucks. so I'm there with Greg, where it's like, why end there? But the concept, of moving over all the details, moving over the ribbing and the piping and stuff like that, I thought was really cool. I actually really, really liked that. I never really thought to think, oh, I wonder what the opening, what the opening credit, what the title sequence is going to be like in this. So yeah, cool concept. Shame about the mouth of the.
Can't help it. I like my horse teeth aliens, man. I think the design is cool. I think Weta knocked it out of the park. But I've seen a lot of people dunking on the design.
Yeah, I think you are very much in the minority in that regard.
Well, one thing, kind of a macro thing I noticed about the series that Sissy Bubbles brought up in our premium chat here, and she also did the our banner artwork for the series. And Greg, I remember you were like, "Oh, she made the design actually look good."
Yeah, the proportions were slightly more in line with the other aliens compared to that little shot there from the real stills we have.
But she said, if you want to bring this up, Aaron, I like it just because it's weird and dreamlike. And that is something on a macro level that I've kind of noticed about the series. Like, one of the early comparisons I made was High Rise. If you guys have seen that movie or heard of that book. So it's a good movie. Watch the movie. But it all takes place in this building where it's very class based, and the less affluent people live in the lower levels of the building, and the more affluent live in the higher levels. Exactly how it is in Alien Earth with those 3 towers.
But it didn't emphasize that in the opening 2 episodes. Obviously, we know that
Yeah.
because of the scripts and the direction of the thing. That was much more prominent thing in the scripts than
Yeah.
it is in the finished episode. So
Yeah.
this whole class aspect of what Noah Hawley is evidently going to be doing is not quite there yet. We get to see the fucking party and the ridiculousness of the rich and the affluent, but there's like no real focus on the poverty at the bottom level.
But beyond that, and it's something like Snowpiercer's another good example too, right? Those things, if you watch them, they feel pretty surreal. Like they feel like when you're watching them, you're like, is this supposed to be reality or just weird alternate surreal existence thing? And I almost feel like that about Alien Earth. Like it does feel very surreal and dreamlike, and maybe that's intentional, associated with the Neverland stuff. But
isn't that kind of Hawley's apparent style as well? Isn't Legion supposed to be quite dreamlike in the psychedelic episodes and things like that?
Very.
So I think it's
which I turned me off of it actually.
I mean, it feels, I don't know, it just
Legion,
feels like, is this really happening in the Alien universe? Like it's almost like it kind of has to be its own separate thing because it just feels very surreal. At the same time, grounded with the retro tech and how everything is presented. So it's a weird kind of, I don't know, duality with that.
So Hunter brings up something in the comments. The dreamlike aspect of Alien Earth plays thematically into Peter Pan, which, like Hawley has said, is very dark and disturbing tale in contrast to the Disney movie. And that's something I find very interesting about the show is, when we all hear about Wendy, when we hear about Neverland as a home base for them, the ignorance in us always goes to the Disney interpretation, doesn't it? I think a lot of people out there probably think, fucking Peter Pan, this is Disney putting their stamp on Alien and forcing it in there and all that kind of bollocks. But no, to hear Noah Hawley on, I think the interviews on the official podcast bring up, that original dark tale of Peter Pan as this horrific thing is very, very interesting. And this is where I kind of I struggle with the show because I like the themes. I have this problem with Covenant a bit sometimes. I like the themes. I don't necessarily like the execution or the way it's exploring them in Alien, because I absolutely, the older I get, the more I appreciate the anti-corporationism of Alien. This idea of your boss is a moron, or your boss is some apathetic, evil wanker, and that kind of stuff. The idea of the hybrids, I can think of nothing worse than immortality. That idea is horrific to me. Absolutely horrific to me. But to make it even worse, the fact that you owe your immortality to this man-child, literally the worst kind of the male gender, the man-child, you owe it to them. You then throw in this Elon Musk kind of ego. You owe them this personality, this cult of personality. You owe this corporation your immortality. That is a genuine fucking nightmare. And I love that as a theme and a concept.
Welcome to David Ate's world.
I find David 8 fascinating, and I always have, and I've always said this. So the idea of that, I think, is very alien-esque in its themes. In this man is the real mankind, humankind is the real enemy kind of approach to it. The corporation is the real enemy kind of approach to it. So it's very fascinating. It's just then when they start adding these kids into the mix and these adults performing as children that I then teeter on the other edge. So a lot of the first 2 episodes for me has been, that's really fucking cool. That is really interesting. That could give me nightmares, and then you go in the other direction where you go, oh no, that's totally not quite right for Alien. So a bit of a seesaw, that's it, a bit of a seesaw kind of experience for me with that kind of stuff. What did you guys think about the Peter Pan and that sort of hybrid aspect?
I mean, it is interesting because, yeah, Hawley was incorporating those themes before the Disney merger, and he spoke about that in recent interviews where he said that
On
the
the
Disney
podcast?
merger allowed them to use like the footage from the old Disney film. And there's this really kind of haunting sequence where Boy Cavalier, the CEO, still a wild name, and I'm wondering if he gave it to himself or not.
Oh, absolutely. He absolutely renamed himself that. I'm certain of it.
You
That
think
is
that's
not
going to
his
come
real name.
up?
I think all of them have probably got, a whole point of the Lost Children is giving them new names, and I think that everybody with a wild, strange name is going to be a chosen name. Dame Sylvia, Dame can't be her first name. That's got to be something boys
Did
probably.
he dictate that? Like everyone needs to change their name on this island or
Well,
something?
that's where it gets weird, though, isn't it? Because Wendy chooses her name. She looks like a Wendy, so you kind of imply there that that's her choice, that's her fine. Her fine. That's her choice, that's her decision. But then when it keeps following it,
Yeah, the other kids don't get a say.
yeah,
Okay.
they just get name badges where it already says Slightly or Smee or whatever on their old ones. So
But so I was going to say this haunting sequence where Boy Cavalier just has this podcasting mic next to him and he's reading over the loudspeaker. He's reading Peter Pan, and there's these really dark dusk shots with this kind of like spooky music that are playing as he reads Peter Pan, and we see like Wendy going to sleep, and it was just an interesting visual, I thought. And even the scene where they make the transition from their child bodies to the adult bodies, it's shot really well. How these like really mechanical pans.
That scene is fucking gorgeous. That is such a fantastic look and a technically fantastic scene. I think that's probably the best visual in the entire first two episodes. I think it was genuinely fantastic.
But there is a shot where during that the camera pans up and we just see the Disney Peter Pan film. So it's like the Peter Pan references here are not subtle. They are hitting you over the head with it. Like, so
Nothing. I don't think anything about Alien Earth has been subtle. Let's be honest, though.
No, the thing about the whole Peter Pan thing is, as I like that he is aware of darker origins of certain fairy tales and stuff, because I mean I like to go into that myself. The problem is that if the audience isn't aware of certain things you're doing allegories for, those allegories are going to they're going to fall flat. They're going to feel pointless. It will only work with a minority of the audience. So as episodes go along, the audience is going to need filling in on those things.
It makes me wonder if he will, because of, like Adam said, that scene where Boy was sat there reading from the actual book, and
more of that.
Yeah. And it makes me wonder, actually, because that scene where he was reading from the book, he was talking about getting rid of bad thoughts and all that kind of thing. And then we see Wendy go to sleep with, I guess, a charging dock, around her head. And it kind of makes me wonder if perhaps there is something more insidious going on there with their own memories and their own, thoughts and organizing their thoughts before bedtime.
Well, regarding the Peter Pan themes from my end, yes, we were aware that they will be prominent, so I kind of mentally got myself prepared for that. And the ironic thing is, out of all of the references, and especially the ones coming up, this was the least strange and painful to me. The Peter Pan stuff, actually, out of all the references, to me feels the most natural. Because if we're already going to have a batshit crazy trillionaire, how they keep on emphasizing it, then yeah, him having this kind of fetishistic infatuation with a story, and him not getting it that it's about a really messed up kid, but he kind of idealizing the whole situation and reading it out. Yeah, that's cool. And him reading out actually aspects from the original book, that's actually maybe the most subtle thing Earth has done in these two episodes. And so those first scenes where with the transfer and look a magic trick, and then look at the Disney Peter Pan up in the ceiling. It's the visuals are nice. The themes are interesting. They're done serviceably. I like it. Yeah, the music then that kind of tries to hammer you over the head that yes, this is something sinister, something's wrong here. The scenes are like just visually completely going on, but the music is telling you uh, this is screwed up. So we'll probably see something about that later on in the other episodes. But the Peter Pan thing makes relatively some sense, though I can be a bit maybe just numb from the later references that really put me over the edge. So yeah, compared to all of that, the Peter Pan thing is the most natural. And as said, we know that Noah Hawley, it to me, from listening all of the interviews with the creator, it sounds like he was infatuated with that story to begin with, and then he was kind of looking at how to put that into an alien story. Oh, okay, we have aliens. Oh, there's a child there. Okay, then we can put Peter Pan into the story, in the sense that this is something that clearly the showrunner Noah Hawley wanted to explore as the main aspect, with the children never growing up as a start of the theme. Again, that's where the episode had me going, oh, this is interesting. This is better than I thought. The music and everything, that's really moving me. Though the previous kind of scene setting it up with Marcy and Kirsch and Dame Sylvia, the dialogue there was getting me out, in the sense it was so stunted, so corny, cringy to me. Somehow just it felt unnatural. But then you have the transformation scene, and like, okay, this is cinematic, this is getting into some horrific and epic territories. Great. But then the first episode especially, it keeps on teetering between this is something big, interesting, like a film, cinematic elements, and then clunky Hollyisms from his other shows that are his trademark things and maybe work for other people, but that were really kind of contrasting this other atmosphere that was building that was constantly throwing me off a loop. And yeah, I was getting, like Aaron said, that whiplash, in the sense of going from one kind of feeling to another. So it was constantly keeping you on edge.
Certainly was.
It's funny, continuing on our Peter Pan references discussion, when I was watching this with Sizzy Bubbles, she was saying, is the alien supposed to be the crocodile TikTok? And at first I was like, whatever, that would be weird. But then it's like, wait, no. Like, the guy who's trying to catch him Morrow has the knife in his one hand, and she literally hears ticking in her ear. So I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe he's supposed to be.
So Morrow is Captain Hook.
And Smee is certainly then going to be friends with Morrow or something.
He's
since
Adam Ein. He's his right-hand man.
Has to be said, not the first time Alien has touched a fairy tale that Disney has incorporated into a cartoon. I forget which one it was, but there was a version of Alien 3 where they were going to do
White and the
Snow
Seven
White
Dwarfs.
reference. Yeah, Ripley was going to actually go to sleep in a glass coffin, and so you're dragging something back there, just like the sheep.
How did folk feel about, so speaking of the sheep, that hasn't quite happened yet, but how do folk feel about the new creatures?
They got a bit more attention in those first two episodes. I mean, in episode 2, the Xenomorph is on display a bit more. In episode 1, the Xenomorph, other than one prominent scene prior to the Maginot crashing, is mostly kept in the shadows. So Morrow, the seemingly last survivor of the Maginot, is consulting with Mother. There's another survivor who's trying to get into the room for safety, and he welds it shut, and then she gets taken out by the alien. And I really liked just how powerful the alien was portrayed here, as it was getting through that door. It was like
Absolutely.
you could slow this thing down, but you can't stop it, and it's going to get through that door. Couldn't make it into the impact room though, so I guess that was pretty well sealed. But so
Well,
yeah,
if it's supposed to save you from crashing into something, you'd like to think it's pretty fucking
it
sturdy.
was still denting it. But yeah, we discover in the mother room there is a secret coffin-like compartment just in the floor called the impact room. So it's apparently made to allow you to survive a ship crash for the most
Just
important
one
occupant.
person, though. Just
or
one person. That's for the captain. That's for Dallas, that is.
I was going to say, now we know why Dallas kept going back there.
Eric, what did you think of the new creatures?
Yeah, as I said, I mean, we have seen these kind of things before. I said back during the very first releases, the eyeball thing is basically a head crab. I am interested to see where they go next with them. Like these tick things, if all they do is just suck blood like an airbag, that's not that interesting. If they're sucking blood in order to metamorphosize into a next stage,
I think we're going to see a lot of that. I was watching one of the interviews with Hawley earlier today. I can't remember which one it was. It was probably one from IGN or something, where he was talking about all these new creatures not having that same morphology line that the alien does, so that what we see them start as is not necessarily what they will end as. So I think it's very likely we're going to see a lot of mutations or morph changes.
And like we saw a hint of what's in that plant pod thing, but we don't know what it's fully capable of. We don't know what's inside those leaves. The eyeball thing, I mean, that might just be going from host to host, but what if with every host it goes to, if it goes to a host with a higher intelligence level, what if it becomes more intelligent, and then that can gain agendas? But if they are just, little kind of things, not as interesting. But those things I found interesting. It was the alien which I felt was a letdown, but the unique creatures, I'm interested to see where they go with them. And they looked creepy, they moved creepy, more interestingly, and of course they used shadows more effectively with them than they did with the big creature.
Casper says
Also
pretty sure that
interested to see that they did go for the androids as well, of course.
Yeah, the plant thing. Well, no, all of them, because the T-Oculus did as well, didn't it?
All of them,
Whatever, yeah. Casper says in the chat, pretty sure the blue lips was the plant's work. So the blue lips, of course, referring to the science officer who was poisoned. Greg's looking like he wants to say something.
The blue lips thing, I think, will be one of the creatures. Sorry, I think the blue lips thing will be one of the creatures that maybe we haven't seen yet, because it's it's in the med bay with a person that has some surgery on them, and then one of the synth kids says, no, it's Hermit, says that some infection is in this. So I think that'll be from another creature. I think that is more likely, though maybe we shall see if it's from the plant.
It was down the larynx or something. I think you're being led to assume it's a face hugger, but that I suspect that's a red herring. It's something else, like you said.
Could it be the plant, because we see the plant actually come out with a wiggly woggly tongue?
Could be
if the plant is depositing something, because I think in that kind of organ scan thing that we see, the internal camera thing, I think we see like little things crawling in there. So we shall see. It's definitely something. But like, my general thoughts on the designs, they're not bad. They are interesting, but I don't find them all super interesting, super special, in the sense of, I don't want to sound harsh, but they kind of seem like generic D&D monsters in the sense of like the blood-sucking tick thing. The way they do the jump scares with it got me. I have to say, it did get me. It was interesting, but for now, if it doesn't do any other transformations, but for now, what we've seen, it's just a tick. It's just a bigger tick.
It's like level
Okay.
1 D&D.
I
monster,
suspect,
yeah.
just like
If
the xenomorph proper, these things may change and have other forms as they progress.
I don't know if all of them will have different stages. This is just my first form, or something. But yeah, if the tick has something more,
It would
then let's see that.
it would make sense for the tick to have one though, because yes, it
Yeah.
is a boring thing, but we also see it take on a lot of resource, a lot of blood.
True. If it has something else, then this as a like beginning stage is very, very interesting and a good setup in that sense. Unlike the design as if it's a beginning thing. If it's the whole thing, then like okay. But if it's the beginning thing, that'll be interesting to see where it goes from there. I hope
Yeah.
that it's a lava stage as
Because it was only a threat because those soldiers were literally unarmed. If they had both their arms, it wouldn't have been a threat.
But they did also seem to go for the jugulars as well, or the artery, so
Yeah.
that's a disabling move.
I have to say that I'm a bit disappointed they didn't go like more gruesome with it in the sense just the jugular. It was on the face. It could have ear, nose, eyes, anything in that sense.
I was waiting for a Star Trek 2 reference with it going in the ear, like in Wrath of Khan.
I mean, I think we'll see some other horrific acts from some of the other creatures too. Like to me, it was just like, oh, that's where the most blood is, and I'm after the blood, so let's go. But
functionally works.
it was interesting how they were skipping over a lot of plot here, but when they eventually the Lost Boys, when they eventually go to the ship to secure it, and Wendy's out to save her brother, Kirsch is kind of acting as their handler, and they're approaching this big looking thing to the ceiling. They don't know if it's a space plant or an animal. And he says, "Fear is for animals. You are not animals." And that's kind of a theme in the show where it's like, can they get hurt? And like we see how powerful their bodies are. And once it gets to a point where they can get hurt, then what's that going to be? How's that going to affect their psyche?
The meat stuff and the animal stuff I loved. The conversation kind of came out of nowhere in the first episode when he was going on about the you used to be meat thing, but the actual discussion and that theme, maybe not theme, but that element that he's sticking to remind them that they are better than human is quite cool. I really do like this whole thing of you are not animals that he did.
Kirsch is definitely having the most.
David.
Yeah. It's marching on that territory, absolutely. But again, if you're gonna take something from inspiration, then take it from where it works. So David with his little interesting monologues there in Prometheus, that's a good inspiration. So yeah, Kirsch's little dialogues, little kind of thought experiments. They are the most effective dialogue-wise for me. But yeah, they approach the plant thing. It looks also interesting. We don't know what it'll do completely, but again, it's just a starting stage of the plant thing. It doesn't look too special to me yet. We need to see what it does.
Looks creepy though. I do think the design is actually pretty strange and unusual, and it kind of evokes the egg in some ways with the petals. And Casper says also, but then Kirsch goes, "Careful, this is not a non-terrestrial species." So I think to Adam's point, it does imply that Kirsch is aware that they are not immortal.
He says,
well, invulnerable, should I say,
what it's capable of. So yeah, although he's like trying to get them beyond childlike fear they may still have even after this transition, he's still like, hey, be careful when some of them are getting a bit too close to it. And I do like the dynamic between Kirsch and Wendy and the Lost Boys. And there's an interesting like Dame Sylvia kind of pulling Wendy towards humanity, and Kirsch is like, no, you're better than human now. And that's an interesting dynamic at play there. But to kind of cap off the other creatures, yeah, they get some prominence in these first couple episodes. The eyeball thing, especially, like it messes up a cat pretty gruesomely, and most media will not kill pets, so to see.
I need to say, we don't know if it might be a scavenger. It might have cut something else, might have done that to the cat. We don't know yet. It might have just taken it on as a autopilot.
True, because the eye very much seemed to be the Teoculus was Ocellus, whatever, was animating the cat. Once it came out, the cat dropped off, and when you see it walking, it's very obvious the cat's back legs aren't working. Or Casper said in the chat it was ripped in half. I didn't see it being ripped in half. It looked like it just got broken back legs to me. Maybe it was. So maybe it didn't kill it. It just
Reanimated it?
the body. Yeah, reanimated. There we go.
Your
Reanimated.
friend from the alien ride.
Well, I mean,
Yes. Fucking Frank Herbert, the reanimator. There you go. That's a deep cut from Eric
It's
there.
a callback there.
regarding the eye monster there, we have, like, from the trailers, etc., hints at what's it going to be used on and how it's going to do interesting things here and there. I think that from what they're showing, that this is like the main new alien that's being used in the show. So discounting the alien Xenomorph X6121, the eye is what will be like the main thing, is what I'm guessing at. But design-wise, it looks okay. It's nice. It's an interesting idea to have those kind of the pupils coming in together, morphing different shapes, and then dispersing when it's going on its own, so we can have like 360 vision. That's a cool idea. That's nice. But at the same time, design-wise, it's nothing special. It's just an eyeball on an octopus. So it's good. It's serviceable. But to me, it's nothing that kind of blows my mind and goes like, wow, what an interesting and great design for alien creatures. Like in other non-related alien media, there are extraterrestrial creatures that are far more design-wise, to me, interesting. This is just good, serviceable in that sense. And
I think it's because in the commercials we've had it like, these are the most deadly things we've ever found, and you don't get the sense that these are the most deadly things nature will ever come up with on other worlds. But if they'd have said on the commercials, like, this is a slice of what we found and they were all predatory, something like that, that would feel more in vogue for what we've seen so far. But again, so far we don't know what some of the things are they brought back. But yeah, it's design wise, it's not great so far, but we'll see what happens.
I think Noah is more so trying, like he's explained, like trying to recreate that feeling of what is this thing doing to somebody. And we already know how a xenomorph works. And yes, that might be like the best monster design and might have a better design than the rest of these. I still don't think we've seen everything yet with these other critters, but I think he's more focused on the horrific aspects of what it's going to do to its victims. But at the same time, I'm very curious to see what'll happen if it has encounters with the xenomorph, because it seems like some of these creatures would not pose much of a threat to the xenomorph. So it's like, would the xenomorph attack them? Would they attack the xenomorph? That would be interesting to see.
Both the Teosalus and the tick, neither of which should be very effective against the alien. The tick will melt away, and the eye thing has no target. So
yes, but that would be lovely to actually see this time when we have multiple creatures, to see how they also interact between each other, which was kind of hinted at in Covenant with the script, where we knew that there was supposed to be a Neomorph versus alien fight there, but we did not see that in the end. So if we have all of these creatures, even if they do not want to have it face off the xenomorph, which would be a shame, it would be nice to see them, at least the other four, interacting with each other and basically seeing which one's more dangerous and how do they fight for the survival. In that sense, it would be nice to actually see, yes, this creature is this dangerous, this creature is this dangerous, but the other one is even more dangerous than this one. It's nice to have those sort of comparisons there. I mean, regarding the Teocelus or whatever, we know from the trailers and the other episodes, there's a sheep that's going to be involved. So we are going to see some interesting things happen. But for now, the cat that we've seen, etc. I mean, I'm not like super sensitive to gore or anything, but at the same time, the effects there, the CGI cat, wasn't too convincing, so that's why kind of the terror was even smaller for me. There, it was like, okay, but it's not even
It
like
was no spike.
yes, yes. So at the same time, yeah, I understand people will have emotional reactions to just even the concept there, which is completely normal and valid. But for me, who's not sensitive to that much, just comparing the effects, I'm like, okay, I'm not convinced of these creatures that they're anything super special yet. They are interesting. They have like piqued my interest a little to see where it goes, but I'm not like this is the new best creature, super interesting, and especially since I was kind of preparing and reading the reviews of these uh, the outlets that had previous to all of the episodes, and they're like, these creatures sometimes some say they do outshine the aliens, some say they don't, but they're like, these creatures are the star of the show if we do not look at the synth kids. And I was like expecting, okay, well, what will we see with them? For now it's okay, but it's nothing super special.
This is where we also have to remember, we are 2 hours into an 8-hour narrative, and we are just scratching the surface of where these things are going. So this is the hypothetical theorizing aspect of this experience. And I actually quite like Teocellus now. When we first started seeing it, I thought it was a little bit too the thingish. I think Casper mentions the thing in the comments, and I was like, I'm not sure this feels quite so alien. But in the more I've got used to it, I really appreciate the body horror and the parasitical aspects of what we know about the tick, what we know about the Teocellus. So I'm quite interested to see where this all goes, creature wise. I do think it was a really good idea for Hawley to bring in other aliens, because it does give him some flexibility to do new things. And I will be disappointed if there is no interaction between these other creatures and the alien, because I do think it would be a genuinely missed opportunity. But again, this is all the theoretical, the hypothesis, where we'd think it could go, where we could, it's hard to divorce that from your current experience, but it's because this doesn't feel like a normal episodic TV show. So I think that's just something we need to probably be a bit wary of when we're sitting down and talking.
True.
And
sorry.
Sizzy Bubbles in the chat says, yeah, I really don't think it's fair to judge the creature narrative given we've barely seen all of them. To me, the Teocellus, or however you say it, looks like
just call it the eye monster.
The eye monster, eyeball monster. It acts like the head crab from Half-Life, right? Like gets in your body, takes you over. Now you're a zombie. But I do wonder if there will be more to it than that. If this thing, and Noah's brought that up in some of his interviews, like what is the motive for this thing once it has taken you over? And it'll be interesting to see if that's explored at all.
True. I don't want to come off as like completely judging them when we are like just literally a quarter into this whole narrative. That is completely true. We have to see what they do later. But I am just going from the instance of somebody who was, when introduced to the alien creature right from the bat, they were more visually interesting to me than I'm just even going by the visuals from at least these stages. If they are beginning and larval stages, they are okay, but they're not. They haven't completely convinced me and put me on board yet. I hope that they have interesting abilities later.
I do think it was. This is to know Hawley's credit. I do think it was useful that right at the start of episode 1, where you had the mess hall scene and they are talking about things, there was some disagreement with the crew, and one of them does say, we lost a lot of people to get these things.
Yes.
Now, I think at
Lovely,
that point, there should have been the comeback of, well, that's more the reason not to disrespect their memories and make sure we get them back. They didn't die for nothing. But when you know for a fact, we don't know how many, but a lot of people, and that was a big ship.
That's where
people have already died. Then
that's where it would have been nice to have seen more of the the cryo bay at the start of it to get a sense of the empty ones, to get a sense of the ones that still had crew in, because it would have been a nice.
I think we're going to see, and for people who haven't signed up to the Patreon, we recently did a review of Event Horizon. I think we are going to get an Event Horizon type thing where we will be seeing flight logs and things like that. And if we don't, I think that's a missed opportunity.
I don't necessarily know it'd be flight logs, because Noah Hawley seems to have a very non-linear narrative style to him. Things like all the jump cuts, even having some flashbacks in there. The flashback to Hermit trying to get out of his thing. that used to be in the first episode in narrative, in narrative flow.
I mean, it would be an ideal way to recreate, in Aliens, and you have the bank of cameras with the Marines, and you have some scenes when Ripley and that are seeing what the Marines are seeing. That would be an ideal way to recreate that tension. And you could do it for quite low budget as well, I think, because you just need these black and white fuzzy radio interference images every so often. I think he could do that, and it would evoke a lot of tension and fear by doing it that way.
I think in the flashbacks that are certainly going to come, we will get the whole story of what happened there. It's just being set up, and with Aaron is completely correct with Hawley's non-linear storytelling. In Legion, he bounces a lot from timelines when it comes to the later seasons. So I would completely expect that he's going to show us everything like in the story there. I would be surprised if he goes with the camera feeds and data logs or something like that. Would be nice, but I haven't seen him do things like that. Would be a new thing. I will give just a last thing credit to Hawley in that if creative who comes and wants to do something new, I do love his approach where he's like, okay, with Alien, we know what we quote unquote have to do, what we can't change, quote unquote. But if we want to do something new, then let's introduce these new creatures that we can have these new abilities and explore it through that way. And I think that if you want to have your cake and eat it too, in a sense, that is the best version. In an Alien show, we have people who are coming for the alien itself, Alien fans who want to see the creature, and you introduce these other things that you as a creative want to explore. That's, I think, the best way you can do it. And as Aaron said, having them be all of this kind of parasitic natures that invade the body, that do horrible things to your body, that is a great basis for the abilities, instead of like something abstract. Oh, this creature can, I don't know, just levitate or fly or something. No, they are all, it seems, have some parasitic basis for the body horror. So I really do appreciate that as an idea. Like, if you're going to try that, I think that is the best you could do. And that's why for now, even though I'm not like too sure about the designs, I absolutely appreciate the creative endeavor there a lot more than the black goo with the prequels, etc. So I hope we see that explored more.
I do think that, I don't know if the alien is from the same world as any of these things, but either way, I do think we've said for a while that it would be nice that if the alien did naturally evolve somewhere, you bring back that, I don't know if
from like the first comic,
Alan Dean Foster. Yeah, but there was a one. It was either Alan Dean Foster or one of the early comics where they see.
Yeah, you're thinking of Theory of Alien Propagation.
Yeah, it could be like the mouse within its own ecosystem. And when you see things like these, I can believe that these may be from the same ecosystem.
Well, in the trailer, Morrow says from distant planets, which kind of implies they've made multiple stops to get these things.
Are the kind of creatures I would expect in an ecosystem the alien would have arisen on. So it's nice to see. They fit right in with the alien itself.
So they're thematically relevant, I think, is the point. So that makes it still feel part, it feels alien, even if they're not the alien.
But I do, I felt Romulus the Xenomorph was a bit overshadowed by the offspring. And I do like a focus on the Xenomorph still. And I feel like we're going to get that here. Even though it was mostly in the shadows in the first episode, I loved how the Xenomorph was in the second episode, like how it hid in plain sight in a number of instances, and it kind of uncoiled itself from the statue and then the shipwreckage early on. just how fast it was, and it was almost kind of comical when someone yelled down the hallway like, "What the fuck is that?" And then it just stomps off there, and you hear screaming and gunfire, and then like it quickly taking them out. And when it just tore up the dinner party of the foppy, rich folk, like it was not picking people off one by one. It was like, it was mowing through folks, and that was pretty cool to see.
See, this was another one of those aspects where I'm like, that's fucking awesome, and then it also kind of pissed me off a little bit on the other side. So like Adam was saying there, about like some of the creepy shots were fantastic. I think the alien, the shot where the alien is hiding in the statue, I think that is fucking awesome. I genuinely loved that moment. It was amazing. And to actually see an alien be a threat, again, I adore Romulus. I think it's perfect. Not perfect. I think it's amazing. But the alien is underused in it. And we get to this, and the alien, he is not that exaggerated EU piece of cannon fodder. He is a fucking beast. And I really liked seeing it be deadly and effective. It was living up to Ash's monologue about its structural perfection is matched only by its hostility. So that was a nice representation of its hostility. So that was awesome, and I did enjoy the gore very much. But then on the other side of things, I've always had a little bit of the beast, the bear, whatever we're calling this one. She was very Alien 3-esque in its portrayal, very animalistic. And I actually have a bit of a problem with Alien 3's runner in that he's protecting a queen. Why the fuck is he not kidnapping people and establishing some, meat for his incoming eggs?
It reminded me of the Alien Resurrection scene where it goes in that escape pod and you just see, blood
massacres everybody. Yeah.
But my problem with that is that here, see, if you write the alien as Jason, where all it's missing is a machete, you're doing it wrong. The alien should be written more like Count Dracula. Here, the alien it's more like the Neomorph here. It's not like the alien. If someone has never seen Alien and a fan goes, you know what, let's watch the Alien TV show, then I'll show you the movie Alien. They're going to watch this, and then they're going to come to Alien and they're going to say, oh, it's going to go to Parker and do this like a bear. And it doesn't do that with Parker. It doesn't do that with Lambert. It doesn't do that with Brett. That isn't what aliens should do. They're very surgical and targeted. And here it's just lawnmowering. And so it felt off mannerism-wise. It felt like this should be a velociraptor that someone's cloned, not an alien. An alien should take you somewhere to do terrible, horrible, traumatic things
that
is talk about.
That is where
scary. What's scary in Alien is not what it does to Brett. It's that Parker and the cat are looking up, and Parker is just chilled, and he said, "No, with Dallas," and he said, "I found the flamethrower. There was no Dallas." That's when you get chills.
No blood, no Dallas.
And you're having a scene that's perfectly in tone with an aftermath out of Hellraiser. Here, if you're doing an Alien film, it should be, where the hell are the bodies?
I don't necessarily agree with you, Eric, because in more than half the films we see that kind of behavior. Yes. Yeah. So it is Alien. It is the crocodile, as he says there. But what I was gonna say is while I appreciate seeing him be a threat, I appreciate him not being mowed down by these fucking million troops with some awesome pulse rifle-ish things.
Yeah.
I do agree with you, because I miss that interpretation of the alien where it is focused on kidnapping to do creepy things, where it is being a bit. We get to see stealth, like Adam mentioned. The moments of the alien sort of appearing from the wreckage, and the shot of the alien appearing from the statue, still fucking love it. I think it's brilliant. I want to see more of that creepy stuff, and that was something, Alex White and I poke each other about, was me saying, Alex, I wish you'd have had some people get their legs broken during that scene where the aliens massacring everybody. I want to see them maiming people. That's where I want the violence. I want to see some fucking legs chopped off. I want to see some legs broken. I want to see some immobilization, so that even if it can't necessarily get all the hosts then and there, it can pop back. It can pop back and pick them back up and take them down. I want to see more of that kind of approach to the alien. But this was still very much an Alien as we've seen it in particularly Alien 3, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's the problem is it's the kill everything like a piranha thing versus we have yet to see like problem-solving, explorative side of Alien, which is what makes the alien. Like what it's doing to Lambert, it is exploring, it is kind of biologically problem solving. You feel really uneasy and you have no idea what the hell it's going to do with her or does with her. And this is just, and it's like somebody, Casper, I think he said he felt it pufferfished them. It just jumped up and it was like venom and it went, and then that was it. It doesn't feel alien to me, but I mean, we have had aliens do this, but when we have them do this, it feels like it's undervaluing the alien. You're not using the alien at its strengths. That's all.
I think, I mean, at the end of episode 2, it grabs Hermit.
Which is funny in its own right, because it's taking it away from the egg. It's taking Hermit away from the
Yes.
eggs.
Okay, so
It's
he
like
has...
in Liar Liar, here I come to wreck the day, and it saves someone.
He has some serious plot armor, because when he's first chased by the alien, he taps the elevator door, happens to be on that floor. The doors open super quickly and close super quickly.
No elevator opens that fast in the or closes that fast in the world, should I say? Absolute plot armor, yeah. But it did make me laugh that I'm sat there critiquing, oh, the alien's not kidnapping anybody. The time that it does in the show is when he takes it away from the eggs, which I think is fucking hilarious.
I mean,
but
in fairness, it is a cliffhanger. I am hoping that the next episode gives a reason for that. Like, it might be Noah Hawley is very aware that there are some fans that will give out a call for let's bring the genocide alien storyline. Might be those eggs are from a different species. And
I don't think Hawley's aware of those things.
Yeah,
no,
that's
not.
No, if it's not, that is when I'm meant to be having the reaction of, oh my god, he's been kidnapped. I'm going, what the fuck, alien? What are you taking them away from the facehuggers for?
Regarding the behavior of the creature itself, I was kind of conflicted there, because there are a lot of elements that I did like, but as most of you have kind of mentioned, I am disappointed that we don't have more of the snatching up. Thinking through that dilemma actually today, I have come also to the conclusion where Aaron says the actual kind of line in Aliens where Ripley says, "Oh, they don't kill you," is an extreme exception to the rule. Unfortunately, only in Aliens do we actually see that
some
more.
get kidnapped in Alien.
Yeah, but wait, just a second to show my thesis here. In every film, the aliens outright kill more than they abduct for hosts. Only in Aliens is that not the case, where they abduct more people than they outright kill. When I
abduct all of them in Aliens,
basically, but in other films, at least half of the killed ones are the ones that are so half are abducted or half are killed. In others, there are a lot more than half are killed. In Alien, 2 are abducted, the Brett is clearly dead, and 2 are outright killed and left, Park and Lambert. In Romulus, you had 2 outright killed by the alien, and 2 are waiting for to be face-hugged. While one is abducted to the hive, and Rain is being held by Scorch for that. But that's also half. Or half are already killed. In others, like Alien 3, all are basically slaughtered. In Resurrection, almost all of them are slaughtered. Very few are brought back to the hive. In AvP's, that should even
But
mention.
there are still people in the hive, though.
Yes.
Yes.
So, I am giving the shred of the doubt in the sense this is a quarter. The alien will put somebody in a hive, or will put somebody near an egg eventually. But here, most are being killed exactly like in the other films.
Yeah.
I kind of theorized that, well, in all of those films where at least half and more are just outright killed, those are the smooth ones. The only ones in Aliens with the ridge heads, they are the ones taking the hosts. So maybe it's that kind of thing. Maybe if it's an age thing, they mellow with age and they are very careful and they bring them back to the hive.
And-
When they're young and
Well,
dumb.
that was a Dan
But
O'Bannon
whatever.
thing as well, wasn't it? Where the
Yes,
alien
yes.
is more violent in its birth and then mellows as it. I'll say
Well, I
mellows.
don't-
Yeah,
It-
I have to say, I'll just say, Casper has brought up to me that there are some pictures of this alien with a dome looking white. And I said,
Yes.
perhaps.
Well, we don't
it's an
necessarily know if it's
dome.
the same one, but
No,
I
we
think
don't.
that
But it
I think
does
that's the
look
way it's
like-
going to go.
I mean, yes. So
Yeah. So it could be a different xenomorph. It could be something happening to the xenomorph, but it seems like we've seen some glimpses in some of the promotional material of a changed xenomorph of some kind. But yeah, I mean, it is an interesting question, right? In terms of like, why does the xenomorph kill some and take others? And that's happened in multiple pieces of media before. Alien Isolation is a good example, right? Like you get to a hive full of people, but also it's just often people left and right.
Yes. In gameplay, most get just killed. In most of the games, most get killed. In some
Mhm.
only games, you see the hive is full of
It's
people,
the-
but you rarely see the abductions. So you're never sure about the ratio, how much are killed, how much are abducted. I've seen interesting fan theories that said, well, the alien is maybe confused, afraid in new territory, maybe just cleaning out the territory so that they can be sure that there are no aggressive people, no armed,
The-
etc. And then later it will abduct or something.
Well,
Maybe
that-
there's an Alien 3 situation that there's a queen, egg queen, hugger queen implanted somewhere. We don't know. I doubt it, but we'll see.
Well, taking the EU into account, we've got things like they can see pheromones and indications of aggression based on that. Another thing I think has been a fan theory is perhaps they can sense who would be a good host, who has decent genetics for their person, compatibility perhaps with the with the alien. There's all sorts of things it could be, and I like Greg showing up here with his spreadsheet ready, with his maths ready for the point. So that's a very good point, mate. Very good point.
The interesting thing you said, you reminded me about the EU, that they can sense with pheromones who is maybe more suited to be a host or not. Does that mean that Hermit, Mr. Hermit, is such a bad host? The alien went, no, not you. This
Well, I mean,
this would
it's
not be resulted in a good
Absolutely
alien."
fucking not, Hermit. Get
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it can't be that, because literally every man, woman, and child in Hadley's Hope, they were all moved over for breeding.
Yes.
But
yes,
the
that's
bottom
the
line
kind
is
of point.
it's a director/writer issue. There is no
Oh, of course.
cohesion, unfortunately. But ideally, they should, when there are eggs present and they are aware they are present, they should be driven more to abduct. Here we know there are eggs present. He was right in front of them. The eggs were quivering, and the alien took him away. What is interesting is why. Was there an actual
Hopefully we
fuck
find
up in the
out.
writing, or was there an interesting reason? Could it be Hermit himself has something going on that he isn't even aware of? That's just occurred to me.
Oh, you
It
know
could
what?
be- I don't know.
Well, Wendy's hearing something. It is
Yes, I
going
was
to be
just gonna
one.
say
It's
that,
going
yes.
to be one of the aliens, whether it's the alien. But if it is the
Okay.
alien, then maybe it could be Wendy in
She's controlling.
exerting her will.
No,
in
she's.
some
I
way.
think she's just tapping into the hive mind, which is not the first time we've seen that concept. We saw it in the game Dark Descent.
Resurrection.
Yeah. So
Oh God.
It was
as
just
it's
an
just
idle fan
repeating.
theory I was throwing out there.
Yeah, no, as long as it's just if she is controlling it, I'm going.
no. I don't think it's
Yeah.
a lot.
To
Well, I mean, she could, if she can tap into the hive mind, she could communicate with it and say, please don't hurt this one. Or whatever.
I'll scratch your back if I. Yeah.
To me, it kind of looked when they were running that the alien was so panicked that it saw multiple people near the eggs. It was just, oh fuck, protect the eggs. To me, I hope this is not the case, but it kind of also seemed it just panicked and jumped and taken the first person. And oh, it's you, CJ again. I know it's not CJ, but oh, your plot.
My love.
I mean,
Can we also
yeah. Sorry.
Can we also bring up here a comment from Hunter in a comment from Hunter in the comments? God, the omelette, best line of episode 2. I thought that was fucking hilarious.
Yes.
Not gonna lie.
Yes.
I did love the moment where she reconnects with her brother and Kirsch is just like, I don't care about that. I need you down here. And she's like, can it wait? He's like, no, it cannot wait.
Kirsch is
So
charming. Kirsch is charming there, but
as much as the kids are annoying, some of those responses are funny, and I enjoyed them.
Yeah, but just to close off my thoughts about the alien itself regarding its behavior, I do like the ferocity. Yes, I am the fan of the aliens type where I would want them to be more abducted, but as said, the other films don't do that, so I give it a pass. It's a shame, but it's not a problem of this show alone. I like how the alien is fast there. The best part of its behavior is seeing the damage it does, the claws, the claw marks that are left on the wall, how it dents the metal doors. I love that. That is the best part of the alien. I have a lot of criticisms for that alien itself, but that is fantastic. I love seeing that. That's not shown enough in the games, wasn't shown enough in the films a lot. It was shown in Resurrection, though. And one interesting thing, I mean, people do compare it with the dragon, how it just kills a lot, but I do agree more with Eric that we actually the seeds of this type of alien is first actually seen in Resurrection. The chainsaw alien was kind of templated in Resurrection, just exploding the people in that pod, and also in quite gruesome ways the other people of the Betty crew. So it was kind of templated there, but I do like how ferocious it is, and I do like that they are treating it intelligently in the sense of we have people with these pulse rifles, these guns that we don't know how powerful they are, but they would presumably do some damage. But they're making the creatures so fast, and those people incompetent enough that they are not getting the shots off. So I'm glad that in the sense I do not want to see the creature be like, oh, super immortal bulletproof or something, unless we know that those are flimsy pistols or whatever. So I like that they're just not getting a chance. So that was okay. But at the same time, the creature is not invincible with Morrow's super gun, which we'll discuss later if you want. But the creature itself is okay in its behavior. I'm liking it. It is a little bit like too explosive and gory. It's almost anime level, like in some anime where you have this super edgy character and just it touches somebody and they explode in a bloody gory mess. In one sense, that is cool. I do like that generally, but in another sense, it can get on the verge of ridiculousness, especially with that half body that's crawling in that Louis the 16th. Oh God.
I did look that up. I was like, can an upper torso survive after being torn in half? And it can. It is.
Yeah.
It is gruesome.
I was surprised when I saw that, and like the more you know, when you learn
It
things.
seems Noah Hawley has a thing for half bodies crawling on floors. Between that and the cat.
And Legion, that it was as well.
And equipment-wise, I've said this to Greg before I came on here that you keep seeing apparently it's just mold on a wall, but you keep on having this shot between a random cleaner cleaning stuff up off of Prodigy HQ and what he's decked out in a hazard suit. The actual people trained to do the search and rescue who don't have any so much as a stretcher or first aid equipment, they have nothing, and they're going into a radioactive death ship with unknown cargo, and they don't even get so much as a breathing mask.
It's like there's search and rescue with smart guns and APCs.
But to
I
be
We're
fair,
going to rescue you from your life.
they
give them
might not.
leeway on that. Yeah, I give them leeway. They don't know what to expect. This isn't an everyday incursion. They're just
Yeah, but they're
shitty
for
security
search and
guards. I
rescue. They're
mean,
meant to
I
be like an earthquake or something, and they get
I
more
don't know if
serious
they're. I don't know if they're actually intended to be like firefighters or such, because they're called the
Yeah.
Tactical Response Unit. So perhaps it is more a case of the Coast Guard getting sent in to help with a fire or an earthquake than it
They're
is
there
so
to
much.
secure the site. Yeah.
Yeah, they call themselves the Prodigy Security when they knock on the doors. They're just his private thing, and
Yeah,
this
but
is a
it's just
company-owned
it
city. So you
segues to
can't blame
later in the
people.
day, and they're setting up camps and stuff, and there's no like fire brigade, there's no hospital stuff. It is just
Yes.
We
people
do
like
see
them.
we do see blues and twos though in the wide shot.
Okay,
So
right,
you do actually get to see the some sort of emergency
right.
vehicle lights.
Yeah,
something's there.
we're
but
just focusing on the
yeah,
response
it's the
team going
equivalent
in
of a
there.
plane crash.
that
It
problem.
should be whoever is mandated to go into an accident should be the ones going in, and they are the ones going in, and they don't even have an oxygen tank. It's nothing. I just find it very
But it also speaks
Prometheus-like.
to, well, it speaks. Boy says to Atom, "I want what's on that ship," and we know from the moment that it crashes that there is going to be some view of that being their property. So that sort of speaks towards the anti Elon of it all, where he's like, he doesn't give a shit about the people under him. They're going on there. We don't necessarily hear that. I think we have to infer quite a few bits from the first two episodes, but I think it speaks to that not giving a shit about your workers and just sending them in there on your whim.
Yeah, I
they're going
don't
to be
find
more
anything
better at their
unbelievable there.
jobs if they've got the right equipment, and then he sends out
Mate,
the
that
children
means
to do the job.
nothing. That means nothing. The providing your workers with the best equipment to do their job, that is not a thing.
Some equipment, because otherwise you're just squandering your workforce. They're going to die.
But that's the point. That's the point. It's the expendable. It's the expendability of
Yeah, but they're not going to get the
employees.
job done, is what I'm saying. They're just going to die, and then you have to send in another group, and they're going to. It's a Putin effect kind of thing.
But we do know that, thanks to the trailer, that these guys do succeed in getting what they need.
Yeah, the new one. Yeah. Again,
The-
they are children. He knows they're sending children into a place where they're likely to be cadavers.
But then
down
isn't
against
that
the
the Cavalier attitude of Boy? In his, well, you know what? She's asking. Fuck it, go on. Go and see how they do.
And even later, when he's just sitting in his chair backwards and he's like, data's pouring in, it's like Christmas. Like, I think he's a really interesting character, and like, it's really timely right now. Again, Elon Musk is the first to mind comparison, and I do wonder if Boy ends up being as much of a genius as he makes himself out to be, or if he just has all these geniuses under him and he's insanely rich and he takes a lot of credit for it. Like, how is his intellect actually going to play into things? Because so far we haven't seen too many examples of him being some genius. We've just seen him being this flippant, immature rich guy that everyone has to please his whims. And so that's something I'm wondering about, is like, is his genius actually going to make an appearance that he keeps talking about? He says he wants these hybrids so he can have an interesting conversation because he's so bored with everyone else.
It's an interesting thought as well. It is an interesting thought, Adam, because then you also have things like the line with Utani, where he's like, this is what we have lawyers for. Let them hammer out the details rather than him want to negotiate with Utani himself.
When he said that, I was like, so there are world governments then, if there are lawyers? Like,
Yeah.
or do corporations rule the world?
Yes.
Like, so.
I don't find those elements of the setup with Boy too out there. Yeah, that was one of the things I was actually surprised. I thought I wasn't going to be able to stand Boy in the sense of like just eye rolling with his character whenever his character showed up. I think it speaks power to the actor and generally the performances. The actors are trying. Again, I hate a lot of the writing and the dialogue. It's so bad for me. I think it's really cringy. But the actors are really trying. They are really trying for the most part. And again, boy, he's not the most annoying thing that I found in these episodes.
I
He
quite
is
liked him.
That's going to be your end thing. Not as annoying as I thought it would be. And that's
Well,
the
I heard
actual-
some
well,
people were
there are
thinking he'd
other
be like
things I hated.
Jesse Eisenberg in Batman v Superman. Like some were expecting that kind of behavior
Yeah.
from him. It's like, yeah, he's still really immature and flippant, but he's not quite as, I don't know, like he's still kind of reserved at the same time.
Yes, because he only shows his bastardness with Dame,
Yeah.
who is a maternal, mature figure, where he is very much, he names himself boy. He's given himself some immaturity in that name, and his whole obsession is with prolonging youth. With the kids. So I think that's been just because it was this mother-like figure.
Yeah.
I thought the scene was really well done when he basically let all of the hybrids go, because it was something in the setup. I was wondering how believable would that be. This is your new technology, extremely expensive, and how are you gonna justify it? And the way it was done and acted out in that scene, I thought was pretty okay, because we have Adam, the assistant guy, who was like talking sense there. If we lose one, it'll be devastating to a company. That already shows, okay, these things are extremely valuable and expensive, which they should be for some complicated tech like this. But boy is like, no, send him, Kirsch. Like,
Well, he
you
says,
wanna,
he says,
yeah,
don't lose one
you
then.
gotta be
And so
exactly like,
Kirsch is like their minder. He's their handler to
yep.
keep them safe.
Well, you'd
And
think
it's the
there would be
shirking.
more Kirsches around to do that, wouldn't you? Because he's like the head of this massive corporation. He must have more normal synths that they could bring along with them. It's weird that there weren't.
This is the head guy that is responsible for them. I was okay. We don't know Kirsch's
Yeah.
abilities completely yet, but I like that. In that, one interesting thing that I was kind of afraid how we was gonna pull off was Wendy watching the brother, etc. Like, there's no way she can do that in secret, and then we see, okay, they've
She's
actually
not.
let her
Yeah.
do that. And it makes sense, because he wants to see how human can they be, how do they emotionally develop and respond. It seems that he more cares about that, because he has synths and he seems to have completely like figured them out, etc. And he wants the next best thing, so he's going to give them as much exploration of their emotions as he can. And even when the others are going like, should we let her look at the brother still, which is interesting there, he is doubtful, like, should we let her? How does she have these abilities, etc.? And the others are discussing. The assistant guy, he's like, oh, that's favoritism because we're letting her see the brother and not the other ones. There's some interesting dynamics there, and some of the few dialogue parts that I think are actually okay and qualitative, have some uh, meaning in the sense of exploring how far are you willing to let things go. I mean, it makes sense. Boy Cavalier is somebody that is so bored, he wants to go to the extreme. He wants to just be on the edge of losing it all. He seems like a gambler type, characteristically. He wants to do something dangerous and see how much he can get away with. So that's why he's kind of letting this titter on the edge of things. I found that relatively compelling in that sense. That's why I'm not completely against his character. He hasn't turned me off in these two, which I was expecting. So that is one of the pleasant surprises.
I really liked him. I enjoyed him. He's not gone. He's not been OTT as performance, or I think as written. I completely buy into the way he's been portrayed and the way that the first two episodes have taken him. If anything, I feel, he's ADHD. He's doing this for shits and giggles.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's giving all this, but he's really an okay guy.
I do think the
He's no
characters,
Burke, but
the scientists of Dame and Arthur Sylvia are interesting as well. Specifically, Dame Sylvia, I think, like you said, Aaron, her paternal, both for the Lost Boys, but also kind of for Boy Cavalier, is an interesting dynamic. I mean, we see that she wants to. It's kind of in the background, but we see that she wants to have a child. And they can't have children, so I'm also thinking, like, is this going to be like Romulus, where the woman who's pregnant is going to have this horrific pregnancy? Same thing as Prometheus, right? Like
in the interview with that actress on the official podcast, she says that Dame doesn't want a kid because she's so focused on her work that there's like, we haven't got time for this shit. So the kids are our kids. Because
It's the husband.
it's the husband that's pushing for it.
But
even
he
though
also says
he says he can't. But if you listen more when they start to go in the background, when it focuses on Wendy coming to look at the synth Wendy body, you can hear her say to Arthur, "We've talked about this," when he starts to bring up, the dream where she's pregnant with a pig, and then he says, "Well, let's hope ours is human." She says, "We've talked about this. The kids are our kids."
I forgot about that pig thing. Yeah, I felt that was a very foreshadowy thing.
Which is also different to the early stuff we got, Adam, because I'm fairly sure she was pregnant in the earlier versions of the scripts we had.
I think so, yeah.
So they've taken that a different way with the maternal, it being that found maternal aspect, the found family kind of thing.
What I found interesting about when I heard about the thing about pregnancy, you were pregnant with a pig, is that in scientific genetic trials and stuff, the reason they're trying
pigs
to
have close DNA to us.
Yes, there's a close genetic link between humans and pigs. So I felt that has got to be playing a part into that symbology there somewhere.
So Casper keeps bringing up in the comments a specific element that we need to talk about, because the moment I heard that sound before I saw that laser, I was immediately tickled and I paused the telly and I got my phone out to text Adam, because I knew how much it raged him in Romulus, and that is the presence of the blue laser in a hive. So Adam, go on then. How did you feel?
I had kind of gotten used to it at this point, but then it threw a curveball, because again, in the video game Alien Rogue Incursion, we see like the blue light again. I'm like, okay, it's just a biological thing now. It still is kind of strange to me, because in the first Alien, we see only one of the holds has the blue light over it. There's eggs in the adjacent holds. They don't have blue light over them. So I always took it as like this was an active containment field. But very strange in this one, we have the blue light over the eggs, and once they approach the eggs, the light turns off in a very like computer-like mechanical fashion. Like the light closes as if it were a laser. So I'm still saying there's a space jockey laser someone threw in the side of the room there or something. But it's I expected, okay, it's like Romulus, it's like Rogue Incursion. The blue light is like a biologically created sensory thing or whatever. But then no, it turns off in this. So I'm like, that was weird.
Inconsistencies
No,
everywhere.
this is what I really hate it when Fede Alvarez said people in the 1970s didn't know what a laser beam was. They did very much know what a laser beam was. Thank you very much, Fede. No, it was meant to be a laser. In that behind the scenes stuff, everything, it was meant to be a laser. And what really rubbed me up the wrong way was him saying James Cameron was at fault for not including it. No, this is something I liked in here. It is clearly a technological, doesn't mean say it's the space jockey laser, because it could just be a blue laser by coincidence, but it definitely closed up, like it is a technological apparatus here. You know, I asked my mum, and my dad was an engineer. I said, "You knew what lasers were?" She said, "Yeah, we knew what a laser beam was." It just
That
that annoyed me when he said they didn't know what it was. No, people knew what it was. Ridley Scott knew what it
okay,
was.
okay.
They've been
Let's
using it in
let's
discos.
go on. Let's
I'm
not insult
glad
Fede.
here it was it's especially with that kind of electronic tone. Yeah, it's a laser beam, but it's interesting that it does have that similarity at the very least, which could imply the alien we are seeing might be one of David's creations, for all we know. Might have picked it up from an engineer type place. We don't know.
There's personally seeing the laser here in Alien Earth, these first 2 episodes. I first was like, "Oh yeah, the debate is solved," when it just turned off electronically. I was also that was my first instinct, as everybody else. But then I started thinking about it, and I am worried this makes an even greater mess, because if this is technological, so if this is from the ship, we don't see the source of it, like an angle. It could be just a hidden angle. That's not a problem. But if this is technological, that means those eggs are supposed to be there. But they don't see. We are not sure if those eggs are brought there. It seems a bit random place to be like something that was made for containment, because if they made it like for containment, we see other boxes, etc. We would expect a cage, something else, something more.
I think it points to sabotage on the ship, which we may see was the
Maybe.
reason it crashes. Like I don't know if it's Tan, who we see being suspicious or whatever. But yeah, I have a feeling like there was some sabotage that took place on the ship that we're going to find out. Maybe that'll come to a point with like Morrow. Again, I feel like we haven't spent enough time like talking about the characters in this, but Morrow's character is really interesting in terms of his agenda, him trying to secure things for Weyland-Yutani, like not giving a fuck about like lives that get lost in the way. He is like, this is the mission. I'm here to secure these creatures. I mean, when it's advantageous to him, he tries to be all friendly, like to those soldiers when he's trying to get out of there with the alien, which was interesting because we hadn't seen that side of him before.
Well, it was a direct reverse to the way he was behaving with the Prodigy people, you know, where the guy was like, you know, "Don't leave us here, brother." And he's like, "I'm not your brother." And then you get to the elevator
It's like,
thing.
please, friend. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not your buddy friend. I'm not your friend buddy. I'm your friend pal. It was very South Park like at that point.
There was a sweet reversal. Reversal there. I mean, I will jump on Morrow as well. I just want to close it out with regarding the eggs. I hope it's a sabotage thing, and I hope it's technical. I just from the scene we see there, it looks a bit strange to be like that it was always set up there. So unless somebody brought out the eggs and whatever is making the field a thing there, it's a bit strange. Again, I hope this is not a natural thing. And I know Casper was having like interesting ideas of, well, if maybe the blue laser in Alien was never the space jockey tech, maybe it was from human explorers or something. So we don't know the reversal of things. I can't wait to see that kind of flashback sequences to see what really all happened there. But I'm hoping that this stays technological, because if it isn't completely like logically explained there, that closing is completely technological. Looks like it. But I'm
It
hoping
definitely
nobody
looks so.
asks. I hope nobody asks Noah, is that a natural thing for the eggs? And he says, yeah, it is. And our minds just explode. I'm just so worried about that.
You have just inspired me with a horrible idea. This is just maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But if it turns out that that blue laser was actually put there by this expedition or something like it. Could it be Noah Hawley is going to make out the signal that the Nostromo picks up is actually put there by a human crew? I hope they don't do that, but it's possible that it might be he's going to reveal that blue laser was actually put there by this expedition, and they set up the signal.
That'd be a little eye-rollingly retconning. I think. I mean, it does make me wonder if, like, maybe it is a biological function, but it's like this goes to its biomechanical nature or whatever, and it is like a biological technology function somehow or whatever, which would be really weird. But
it's not like this is a new theory either, though. And we must have talked about this when we were talking about Romulus, because I remember seeing this posed in, the mail groups, back in the early 2000s, as in 2000, 2001. This has been around for a long time. It isn't a question we've seen a lot recently, but we've seen it in the past. Is this a function of biology, or is this a function of the derelict? So it's not exactly new. It just seems to have come up a lot more recently.
It was never a popular idea because it doesn't really make a lot of sense. I mean, first in Aliens and the other films in Resurrection, etc., and most of the expanded universe, of course, that always gets forgotten. But I think most people understood that it was a force field, so it's kind of recontextualized today. But I agree that it existed as a possibility.
But it's also worth remembering. I don't want to stay on this much. I'm not going to lie to you. But I do want to point out that people also forget that this very nearly ended up in Alien 3. The idea of it being a biological function. One of the scripts, when they had a hive, very clearly calls out the existence of this blue laser like in the derelict. It was one of Hillengyler's scripts. So let's move on from this, because I feel like this is a thing that we could spend an hour in itself talking about.
We've gone through all sorts of weeds in this episode.
Yeah, we need to get to the Ice Age 4 references.
Oh God,
wait.
Let's talk about characters
tomorrow.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the characters. So Adam, continue.
Yeah, I mean, I thought all the characters, even though, yes, this is Wendy's story, she is our protagonist, this seems like it's going to be an ensemble cast. And all of the characters I've seen so far have me pretty intrigued. I mean, I feel like we still haven't learned too much of the Lost Boys, really. It seems mostly like Wendy, Dame, Boy Cavalier, Kirsch, and Morrow are like our primary core kind of characters that we're going to be following here. Now, I imagine we're going to get to know the Lost Boys more as the season progresses, and so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But so far, the core characters that we followed, I think they're all unique, they're all interesting, and they're all acted well. I think Sydney Chandler really pulls off Wendy well. So yeah, I mean, I'm cool with the characters. I'm on board with the characters.
Morrow is absolutely him, and Kirsch. Just to talk about not just Morrow, but him and Kirsch, I think, are the most interesting to me. I'm curious to learn more about Dame. I'm curious to learn more about her history with Boy. But just off these first 2 hours alone, I'm mostly interested in those guys. Morrow, I think, is very an interesting point in the discussion of the show. The show wants to ask about what it means to be human, and is a human mind and a synth body still human? With Morrow, we get this idea of a technologically augmented human, but with his attitude, with his behavior, with his lack of care around these other characters, the other crew. Has he lost his humanity? Is a cyborg still human in that sense? So he's going to be, I think, very interesting as the show goes on, because I think he's going to play an important part in that thematic element of the show. Kirsch, Barry, I probably don't really talk about Barry a lot on here anymore. In the olden days, when we used to have regular AvP 2010 game nights, I used to play a lot of AvP with a member of the board called Shaker Maker Man, Barry. He messaged me the other day going, "Did Kirsch remind you of Michael Biehn?" And I went back and I watched it yesterday, and so much about the way that Timothy Oliphant plays Kirsch reminds me of Michael Biehn now, the way he talks, which I thought was a hilarious observation. I really like Timothy Oliphant. I've not seen him in a great deal of things. I may have watched Hitman 1,000 years ago. I certainly watched probably season 1 of Santa Clarita Diet. So he's not one that's really embedded in my memory, but I really, really enjoyed him. And Kirsch, again, is that whole question of being human. I'm really curious to see where he goes with there. Chandler, I agree with Adam. I liked her. I still don't know if I liked the character, though. All the actors, I think, did well with what they were given. I believed that the Lost Boys were children. I didn't necessarily believe that they were 11, 12-year-olds, but they very much felt like children with a lot of the mannerisms and the way they spoke, which is interesting as well, because, one of the things they've talked about in the behind the scenes has been, when we think about Alien, we always think about the boot camp from Aliens, and we're always interested in those bonding exercises and learning the ways of the military. But with this, they spoke to a child psychologist, and they engaged in like the kind of activities that kids would with a child psychologist as their sort of prep. And I think it shows. I think they do a good job of being kids. I just don't know if I like that concept at this point.
I also forgot a core character. We have Hermit as well, Wendy's brother.
He feels like a bit of a non-entity at this point,
Is that why I forgot him?
Maybe. Like, so much, again, speaking to the shit we've got, so much of his character was around the baseball thing, was about his medical thing. And at this point, a lot of that's been stripped out of these first 2 episodes. We get a little bit of it. We get a little bit of the Mr. October, him listening to the baseball game. But I feel like he's going to be something we learn a bit more about as we go on. Again, that's all part of this idea of it only being a little bit of the entire narrative. But at this point, no, he's not somebody I'm massively interested in. My interest is pretty much only in Kirsch and Morrow at the minute.
I did kind of like his journey through the tower, though, as he was like one bit to the next, getting out of these crazy scenes narrowly until eventually he runs into Wendy. So yeah, I'm intrigued by his character, but I think you're right. We really haven't gotten too into it, other than the context of like Wendy misses him and she's watching him. We haven't really learned too much about him as a character. We've seen little glimpses of flashbacks, and Noah Hawley plays their father, which is fun. You don't like that, Craig?
I was ready to critique that. I was like, this is so self-indulgent. But then I also remembered Fede put his own dead likeness in, and I know I would be very tempted to do that myself. So I don't think I can really critique it. I do think pretty much everybody would do it in some way. These days, anyway.
Protest, Greg, protest.
Well,
he's keeping it in there.
I wanted to see if somebody else wants to go first there, but yeah, just that little bit about inserting characters before I say my thoughts on the other cast. I mean, I get that happens. That has been like a piece of cinema history. Directors do that all the time. I think that works a lot better when it's literally a background character that it's barely noticeable, and it's a short view. It's a short little scene. The thing that kind of bothered me here was that it's just we got constant flashbacks in those 2 episodes back to their childhood and back to the father figure, which by the characterization seems very important to these characters, and having then that be the director there, that's kind of like, well, okay. And especially, I mean, since we know from Hawley's story that this show is basically him exploring his parental relationship with his children and the modern world, growing up in such a corporatized world, which I get it. Those are like legit themes that can and should be explored, but I kind of expect in fiction for it to be done subtly, for it to be done metaphorically, and he having then here literally him being the father of our main character, it just kind of gets me out immersion wise a bit. The Fede thing is like literally just it's not even him, it's a prop of him, so which is the one time kind of second thing you see him, and that's it, completely non-important, just an Easter egg. But here it's a bit more important, and that's what just kind of distracts me from the immersion there. But generally regarding the characters, I am relatively happy with how the actors themselves are trying to portray this. I have, as I've said here multiple times, really huge problems with the dialogue. Like half of the time, the dialogue makes me roll my eyes, especially everything with the children. I think they are portrayed in a much younger manner than they are supposed to be. The actual child actors kind of portrayed it more honestly, since they're kids, of course, but more maturely than when they are in adult synth bodies. At least to me, I've been a substitute teacher for a while, etc. In the past few years, and I've worked with younger children as well. The thing that kind of just irks me there, not even engaging all of the kind of problems of going into, again, childish minds in adult bodies, which is a whole trope in fiction that can be quite tricky and problematic. But just going with how it's portrayed here, it's like kids are a lot more mature than that. And that's why I'm like, I don't buy into it. And just because you can do something in the sense of it being plausible or realistic, kids exist, and you have kindergarten kids who act like in this and that way. But does that mean I want to see kindergarten kids, for instance, in an Alien film? No, that doesn't fit the tone. So for me, the Lost Boys are a bit jarring there. But I must say, of course, out of all the Lost Boys, Wendy, she's doing the best job. She rarely made me eye roll, and even in some horrible scenes we'll get to later, she almost sells it for me. Almost. Not really, but almost. The actress, Sydney Chandler, she's really doing her best to portray this, and I think she has very empathetic kind of expression. She's hooking me there to feel for the troubles she's going through, and I think her character will be like the core thing that helps me get through all of the episodes there. Those are regarding the Neverland kids. As said, with Boy, I am surprised that for now I am getting the point and his performance there. As said, Morrow and Kirsch, I like them. They're the most quote unquote normal characters. Well, that's because they are one of the few adults in the room. How to say? So they have like interesting interesting portrayals of there's something behind those eyes. They are thinking of something. Some of their plot machinations are developing there. You want to see more of that. For now, I mean, yeah, Morrow is compelling, but it seems like it's a relatively simplistic story. He's on this mission to find for Will and Yutani, presumably, unless there's a plot twist there. Of course, we shall see what happened on the ship, but he seems like a straightforward journey there. I'm completely okay with the addition of cyborgs. They make sense. I think that always made kind of sense. The visualization of the arm isn't bad. I kind of maybe wish that they would just go with, if we have synthetics with normal skin, why doesn't he have normal skin there? Why does it have to show that he's a cyborg? Especially if there is some kind of prejudice against that, but okay.
Even then, it's still pretty subtle. I mean,
Yeah.
It's not overt, and whether that's because they're just
True.
downplaying the effect, perhaps, I don't know.
Maybe,
But
maybe
it's not like he's running around with a fucking Dutch AvP
Yeah,
arcade Dutch arm or anything.
it's not huge. It's not huge in that sense. I mean, I would have been okay also if they went if they went more with kind of retro tech, make it a more mechanical kind of little arm thing. But cost disparities. Like we have synthetics, and we probably still have simpler prosthetics. So anything can be used there. I had a kind of issue with the prosthetics. It seems like a Swiss Army knife. Like from the trailers, I knew there was a knife, and like, okay, having one weapon, but no, it has a blowtorch, which is with chemicals and stuff in your arm. And I'm like, oh my god, there's gonna be something else. Is there? So it's gonna be like everything
mean,
from this now.
Yeah, I mean, you would think
It's
it would have
confusing.
some multifunctionality. It kind of reminds me of like Deus Ex, if you played like Human Revolution, Mankind Divided, like some of the augmentations they have there. So it is kind of it's certainly something new in the Alien universe. Like we've had consciousness transfer before in some rare occasions, and we have regular sense, obviously. But as far as like humanoid cyborgs, it's something we, as far as I can tell, maybe with the exception of the power suits that kind of drive you crazy a little bit, we haven't really seen the concept of like cyborgs too much. So it is an interesting thing to explore, I think.
It, it,
And
it wasn't
I
it wasn't done poorly in that sense. We will see. I mean, I hope we shall see why there is a kind of prejudice against that. Depends on how much Morrow is cybernetically augmented. Is it just the arm, or if you have a limb, you have to have a brain interface controlling it or something? So people are like, "Ooh, are they human, or do they have some cybernetics and tech in the
They have to
brain?"
plug
Which
into the
means,
nervous system somehow, like a normal
well,
prosthetic.
Well, in the
well,
trailer, you
we don't know
see
what
his
they're
head
doing.
hooked up to something.
I think that'll just
Um,
be a tech thing, downloading, uploading things. But yeah, if it's that, then maybe he
but
has.
it shows there's more to him. It shows there's more to his augmentation, and it's going to speak to, the prejudice is going to speak to that theme of what it is to be human. So if there's then them doubts about him being different, is this all part of that? Is he still human? Do I hate these other? You know what these prejudice folk are like.
But as a character, I liked him in the mess hall up until he became a murderous psychopath. And I liked Kirsch up until he became Hannibal Lecter in the shuttle. You used to be food. We keep getting these completely out of left field things that don't need to be there. Um, there's just something with the writing that keeps on bugging. It's like they're checking a building and they find out this French Renaissance cosplay party that somehow didn't notice there was a spaceship smashing into the building. There's something. I keep getting to a point with this, and whether it's a character or an event, I keep losing my willing suspension of disbelief. And I'm hoping as we go on, whether it's a character or event or whatever it is, that goes away. But I keep getting things like this. I like a character. Okay, let's see how they're heading, and then something happens. And I go, no, I'm not caring about that character anymore, kind of thing. I don't know. It's just we're 2 episodes in now. I think whether you like it or not, you're not going to start liking it or start disliking it. The tone is what it is. And when we get these questions of what it means to be human, is it an interesting question?
This is where I think Adam's age-old question here of how much is too much Blade Runner in your Alien.
Yes,
And I think
or cyberpunk,
in this
or
case, I suppose.
yeah.
There's a
And
pretentiousness with it.
I think this is going to be. I'm curious to see how that balance is struck, because that's something that gets brought up again in the official Alien Earth podcast. It's mentioned by the host Hawley. So I'm curious to see how the entire 8 hours balances that out. And I'm very curious to see how Adam feels about it all at the end of it because of that.
Yeah, no, I'm still like, I really dug the first 2 episodes, but I'm still oblivious as to how I will feel moving forward. I mean, it's doing well. It's very successful.
It
It
is
is,
the number one in the world after
yeah,
number one streaming on Hulu in the world after the
yeah.
first day.
It's one of the highest reviewed shows of the year. It's the highest reviewed major piece of Alien media since the 80s, since Aliens. That's crazy to think about. The audience
That's
score,
critically reviewed, though.
the
We've always
audience
got
score is a bit lower. The audience seemed to prefer Romulus a little bit more than the critics did, whereas with this one, it's the reverse. And it seems to have had an effect on some other Alien media as well. I saw Alien Covenant and Alien Romulus were both really high in the movie streaming charts right now, as of late.
Covenant had been just before the show was coming out, because
Yeah.
I think we talked about this, hadn't we? Because I'd shared the thing and I was like, odd that it's Covenant and not Alien or Aliens. But yeah, it's always nice to see new excitement for new releases sort of make people go revisit the old stuff. You know, I'm certainly guilty of that myself when it comes to other things, but to see it happen to our fandom as well is always nice.
Yeah. But the question that really lingers for me, and this is something that Hawley's been asked about a little bit and alluded to, he has said, and I think this is close to a quote, the film, the movies and the TV are different worlds. So even though he's sourcing from the first two movies, I'm kind of like, this is entirely its own thing outside of
So do you muted yourself?
outside of the Alien film continuity. This is its own thing because we're still getting a Romulus sequel, right?
Yes.
So that's still happening. But is this like, does this get so popular that they try and like, I don't know, pull a Star Trek Discovery where it's like, oh no, it was just a different group of Klingons, you know, like.
I think it's pretty clear that this exists in its own continuity. And I think the sooner we accept that, then the sooner we cannot be bothered by inconsistencies with the wider universe.
And how do you feel about that, Aaron?
I've got no choice. I've got to deal with that.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you can still have an opinion on it.
Yeah, well, as long as the thing I always I worry about the current state where we've now had multiverses introduced in Aliens versus Avengers. I worry in that regards in terms of them hopping around, which is kind of what AVA was sort of setting up at the end. I don't want to see them hopping multiverses. I am kind of already now used to this idea of alternate continuities because of the resurgence that we went through of the old Hicks and Newt comics getting republished about 10 years ago. It nearly happened with Alien 3, Alien 5, Alien 3.2, whatever you want to call it. So as long as I don't get Rain hopping through an engineer portal into Alien Earth, yeah, whatever, it's fine. It's its own thing. I can not be pissed off by inconsistencies with the other films because I know it's its alternate continuity. That's just what I've got to roll with.
You're a big Stargate fan, and you don't want this.
Again, I don't want to go into it here because it's all of the discussion, but it's because Stargate has it built into its lore and its mechanics and its thing. Same as Star Trek, same as Terminator. You know, Alien doesn't. Alien could work with space jockey technology because they're all Lovecraftian and unknowable technologies, but whatever. It would make sense within narrative, but it wouldn't feel right within the tone of the series. So that's where my problem is with all that. I've accepted it. It's fine. It's done with. It's going to be its own thing. Alien and Aliens. And
I do wonder if they'll still like source from it, like in Isolation 2 we'll see an article about the Prodigy Corporation or whatever, like, and yeah, even though it might not fit within the film continuity, like maybe there'll be some sourcing of it, you know, kind of like Star Wars has done with the EU that was discarded,
the
like,
legend stuff. Yeah. I mean, that's fine. That's fine. It's just extra lore building elements, but you know, the wider EU, I don't think, or the wider law is not necessarily want for new companies.
You don't think we're going to be seeing the show in the next iteration of the Alien RPG? Like they're not going to try and work it all in there.
Mate, well, here's the thing as well. Like I know I'm probably disagreed with on the wider thing here, but I actually really like this idea of barroom canon even applying to the films. You know, so I can kind of take this idea of barroom canon and apply it to the show as well in some regards. You know, somebody somewhere has heard about a Prodigy Corporation who've done some experiments with some weird alien things. It's so loosey-goosey, and I kind of just like that element of it now. So, whatever.
So basically, we're all okay if this show ends with Alien the Earth getting invaded,
I
and it
kind
makes a
of
clean break.
I feel like a time jump after Aliens is not unreasonable for the show, for them to actually have stakes and make it so that perhaps there is some sort of outbreak. By all accounts, we're going to end season 1 with the aliens loose on some island somewhere. I think is
It's like
what's
full
been.
Jurassic Park.
I think that shot of it in the cage is maybe one of the last shots. So this is me hypothesizing based on stuff we've heard in interviews. This isn't any knowledge that we have. I can't tell you how the season's going to end, but I feel like that might be one of the last shots of the season, and we leave it there for season 2.
Regarding the continuity stuff, I am generally somebody who really is a lore nerd, and the reason I have gotten so deep into Alien is because of the expanded universe. So it is something that is very important to me. But I have come to grips with the reality of how things function and how the higher ups just don't care and never have and never will care for the expanded universe. It is just something they use for us superfans to quote unquote super for us more obsessive people, let's say, to hook ourselves into and ride on that wave of new releases until another film or show, whatever, comes and erases it all again and again and again. That's okay. I have been kind of getting used to how previous films and entries have been doing things, where something new comes and then if something previously doesn't fit, it gets retconned in the sense it doesn't have a split kind of continuity or something. It just, the AvP films, they were all part of the Alien and stuff, but with Prometheus and the prequels, it was retconned, and it still had Aliens, and the etc. Films in the continuity. With this now, the parallel things, etc., I get what they're doing, and I am a bit disappointed with how vague they are with the wording and how confusing that is.
I
Then for some people,
wish
that's nasty for me.
I wish he'd straight up just say it. I mean, we've had wishy-washy comments of things
Yes.
like we exist parallel. I think there's an Instagram reel from the press junket that I need to transcribe to post, where he's sort of pretty much just saying, yes, these are different. The films and television are different and are parallel to each other, but it's still not clear. And I think it's a shame because it comes off the back of like some of the, I want to say, ignorant comments that they made about Alien fans don't give a shit about continuity. Yes, they fucking do. Canon arguments have been a thing in Alien since the fucking 2000s and 1990s.
It was by one of the higher ups of FX, Gina Bally, and I think she was being interviewed and had a comment saying like, "Oh, Alien fans don't look at this like Marvel fans do, and they're not so concerned with continuity." And I'm like, a little presumptuous. A lot of them are, but I'm also not opposed to. It's just new for us in primary live action media context. I mean, we've
two
seen
things at the same time, I think, is more the difference, isn't it? Yes, we're used to these things, like Greg mentioned with AvP. AvP can exist as its own thing cinematically with the Predators, as long as it doesn't count the prequels. And Predators still reference back. The Predator still reference back to it, but now we actively have the TV, potentially 2 more seasons of this show, and then we have Romulus and wherever Badlands is going. So we've got these multiple continuities going off at the same time here. Somebody needs to fucking tell us with some certainty that yes, these are separate things. Enjoy them as separate things. Don't get your panties in a bunch about some things not lining up between the two, because we're not talking to each other. We don't care.
Yeah, I think that those kind of comments, they are, to me, they seem more of a projection of their own opinions. They are basically just saying, we don't care about these details. We are making what we want to make, and that's totally fine. But they need to be a lot more clear about it, because people are debating and people are having arguments. Some people can have calm and rational, but when you have such contradictions, especially with the statements where you have other people saying, well, he said he wanted to connect with Alien. He says he likes Alien and Aliens. And then in others, he says this report says it's a parallel timeline. This other one says, oh, they don't care about continuity. And so what is it? If you piece together and look at the interviews, you can clearly see they don't care about it, in the sense of they are concerned of, oh, we like this universe, we like the vibe of these films, and we're creating our own story. And the thing that Noah, to me, so this is interpretation, of course, that seems to be saying about maybe future connecting with other films, which is causing other confusion, to me just seems like I will decide later if this is popular enough, if the future films are popular enough, we'll just merge them. But that doesn't mean that they will like pave over any plot holes that can arise. They just won't care. They just merge and have characters meet and stuff. They're just not taking continuity seriously there anymore. It's because of the multiverse fatigue with Marvel, and now people are falsely equivocating that continuity equals Marvel, which is, to me, completely crazy, because
I mean,
Marvel does a single storyline in multiple films. That's different with franchises that have been doing this forever. They just have isolated stories, and normally they have from one film to another, advancing the goddamn fucking timeline, just one film to another. Franchises have been doing that forever. But with this, first of all, I was like, yeah, I hope they have a time jump or something so that we can finally go past Alien 3 and then we can have an Earth takeover. But now, seeing how they have done the political situation, which I absolutely hate, how it's simplistically set up, more not so much as law breaking, but it's just simplistic. We can talk about that later. But with all of the kind of universe elements that are set up and how everything is referential to present and modern day things, I'm like, no, I do not want this to then go past Alien 3 and this be the new default thing. I would actually be happy if they do now in 2020 that the Earth gets taken over, which I doubt they'll have the courage to try something like that. But I would love for a clean cut, and then I can just be, okay, this is a fun what if. I will literally just consider it a what if. It'll not be my primary love kind of timeline thing. But
I think it's because if you go back to Prometheus, you did have Ridley Scott doing that thing about, oh, it's not really a prequel, but it is. And it turned out he admitted it was Lindelof telling him this is just a cheap way to get publicity, and it worked. But we know Scott Middlebrook, SM on the forums, when he was doing the timeline stuff, Fox told him, he said, this might be an issue. And Fox said, we don't care, make it work. And I think these statements with this, when they're saying it's in parallel, and they're using these weasel word terms, I think basically they're waiting to see how the ratings are like. And if the ratings prove popular, they'll go with it. They might make more of an attempt to make it fit together. But if they don't, someone in the back rooms is saying, you know what, Noah, do your own thing. We'll see how it goes. Maybe it won't make it its own thing. Maybe it won't. And they're just seeing how it goes. And it's not a big game plan thing. They're just seeing which way the wind blows. And that's why they aren't making a definitive statement. Because if they did, they could tail this off into merchandising different avenues, and they aren't. So that tells you they are waiting to see how it goes.
Well, I think it's so far it is going well. But it's hard to square that. Like, and it's a question in my mind, how is the season going to end? Are they going to try and tie it into the original Alien? Like, oh, this is just 2 years before Alien, so they're going to reroute that ship or whatever. Like, if they try and do that, I'm like, okay, are you in line with the films or aren't you? Like, it's just like you said, Aaron, there needs to be a clarification because it feels a little too wishy-washy on that front for me.
Right, I think we should end there.
Yeah, we're pretty talked out, but I mean, this is a long time coming, lots to talk about, and we're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep watching.
Well, there's gonna be a discussion every week for the next 7 weeks, so we've got plenty of time to talk about this, and then plenty of time after as well. But yeah, 2.5 hours. I am selfishly thinking of my editing going forwards. I know, look, I've always said, no, we're not going to be one of those podcasts that cuts to an hour and that's it for our own ease. We go as long as we go. But to be fair, I think 2.5 hours is probably... We're going to have plenty of time to talk about everything as we're going along over the
Ice
weeks.
Age. We can talk about that in the other weeks.
We'll talk about Ice Age
in the other
next
week.
week.
Do a whole episode.
Yeah, exactly.
It's fair to say I think all four of us are kind of in the ground where we're still kind of making our mind up about it.
Yeah.
And
So
because
Makes sense.
because it is one long story and it is not multiple contained narratives within a wider arc, it is very much going to be, we are not going to make our minds up until we watch the entire thing. It is an 8-hour film. It is an 8-hour journey. And we'll know how we feel when that journey is done. Hopefully season 1 is going to be a contained arc, and not then just 1/3 of another wider narrative. I'm hoping there is some sort of conclusion.
That's just
at
the
the end of
prologue.
this.
Yeah, I wouldn't bet on it.
Well, but we do know Noah does have aspirations to continue doing this, and FX does as well. But as it stands at the minute, I am looking forward to next week, and that is the important part, I think, of where we need to end this. So I want to ask you all, are you looking forward to next week?
Yes.
I'll wait and see. I've not got
Okay, so
enthusiasm for it.
No, that is fair. That's fair. Greg?
After the first 2 episodes ended, I wasn't. I was so disappointed by some elements that we haven't talked about yet that we'll talk about next week. But after I've gotten a little time to digest things, I've kind of mellowed out, and I'm like, let's give this another chance. So yeah, barely, but yeah, let's try. I wanna love this. So I'm here for the ride.
So thank you for watching or listening. Those of you in our live Patreon chat who have been through us, I think this is maybe one of the most chatty Patreon comment sections we've had during a live broadcast. So thank you for joining us. If you'd like to see more of what we do, you can check out our website, avpgalaxy.net. We are the busiest we have ever been right now. We are reporting on multiple alien things and Predator and video games coming up. There's a lot there. So check us out if you want all the latest updates. We are also on all the major social media channels, Facebook, X, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and now TikTok, much to Aaron's chagrin. We have finally launched our TikTok. We also have a Discord server and a Steam group. So be sure to check those out if that is where you like to hang out. Another big thank you to our Patreon supporters, some of which who have been with us here during this episode in our live chat. So one of the perks of signing up for one of the tiers on Patreon is you can see our podcast a bit early. And for the non-interview ones, we're usually going live, so you can comment with us, and we may interact with some of those comments during our podcast. I think that's it, right?
Yep. So I would just like to also mention, I probably should have mentioned it at the start, these Alien Earth reviews are not going to be super well edited compared to the normal ones. They will just get a first pass from me dealing with overlaps, and then I will hand it off to our post-production software for the other bits. There still may be weird artifacting in some of the bits and pieces, but that's just so we can get these out to you in a quicker manner than it would take me if I was going to be the anal motherfucker that I am. So please don't be too critical of me is what I'm asking.
Sometimes done is better than perfection.
But I just need the context out there. But yeah, I hope everybody's enjoyed it. Oh, actually, before we go, so something we do encourage is people to drop us emails now, people to leave us comments on whatever platform you're listening on, or reviews on whatever platform you're listening on. Adam, do you want to check iTunes quickly while I just read these comments we got off of Spotify?
Sure.
So Lego Man Matt just left us a nice little comment at the end of our retrospective interview with the Eurocom developers for our big Concrete Jungle interview, and just said awesome, insightful chat, which is very much appreciated. And again, in an effort to be a bit more timely and do news ones, again, first pass and post-production edited episodes. We did one on the new Killer of Killer's ending recently, and Ant left us a comment saying, "Hey guys, first time commenting, long time listener, love what you do. Just wanted to say that the first time we see the concept of frozen prey was in the Marvel comics. They weren't all people that had defeated predators, though that appeared to be a different clan. Of course, the comics are not canon and are canon until they're not." I was bringing up my saying there, but the implication is that capturing and freezing beings seems to not be exclusive to this clan, and they're not all victors against the predators. But I'm fairly sure we talked about that in that episode, and anyway, because I'm sure Adam brought it up.
At the later end, maybe.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, we did acknowledge that, and we did talk about that as well. But thank you for leaving us comments; it's very much appreciated. Please do; it helps us know that the effort that we put into these things are worthwhile. So it's very much appreciated, even if it's just a little couple of sentences. Adam, you got anything for me, brother?
There's a couple from earlier this year that I may have missed. I don't remember reading these, so I'll just read them real quick. This is Alex, the designer, left us 5 stars, said it's an honest fan-based fun. These guys love the lore, comment on it fairly, honestly, and warmly. A great deep dive into Alien and Predator worlds. Thank you, Alex. And another one from a little bit earlier. Congrats on 200 episodes, 5-star rating. Congratulations, guys, on 200 episodes. What an achievement. This podcast has been an absolute joy to listen to be able to listen to and engage with like-minded individuals of the franchise is truly something special. With 2025 looking like a big year for the fandom, I'm excited to see where you take this show. So thank you very much for our feedback. Again, like Aaron said, leaving feedback on whatever podcasting platform you listen to really helps us out, and we do appreciate it.
Indeed. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you to all our patrons who have been joining us in the chat. Hopefully, we'll see you next week as well. Thank you to Greg and Eric and Adam, as always, for coming on and spending some time out of your, very busy adult lives these days. Jesus fucking Christ. Everything's hard. But I very much appreciate you all. And yeah, thank you, everybody, for listening. This has been Corporal Hicks.
RidgeTop.
Xenomorphine
Still collating.
Signing off. Although maybe I'm going to have to think of something special for the Alien Earth ones for next
Get into
time.
the weird shaped dropship things.
Indeed.
Guard the omelet.
Yes. Guarding the omelet. There we go. That's our new word sign off for this one. Until next time, folk.